Richard, he hasn't joined. Oh, here he is.
Is it better now?
Yo, what up?
Oh, hi.
It's still okay. It's still kind of that way. Hi, Richard.
Hey, so I was doing my own stream. I was kind of going back and forth, watching your stream a little bit. A few minutes ago, like 10 minutes ago, you were talking about Yellowstone specifically.
I actually have that, yeah.
Yeah, so there was no benefit found with reintroducing wolves into Yellowstone. The authors who originally wrote that paper disavowed their own paper. They actually found
So,
that,
Richard,
yeah, what's up? The authors actually found that wolves had no effect whatsoever on the ecosystem. They didn't even have any effect on the behavior of elk. The assumption was elk would deliberately try to avoid wolves and it would change their drinking and eating patterns. It didn't. Elk would not deliberately try to avoid wolves. They would just literally sit right next to wolves. It's only if wolves are chasing them that they'd ever decide to move or go out of the way. They also found that the only thing that actually reduced elk populations was human poaching. So people shooting elk with high-powered rifles is the only thing that actually reduced elk population. Changes to flora and fauna were actually attributed to just climate change, nothing to do with reintroduction of wolves. So knowing this, and that ecosystem in particular, what would be your argument to basically kill off all the wolves?
Oh, I don't think we should kill off all the wolves.
No, but what would be your argument to not kill off all the wolves in Yellowstone in particular?
So what you're saying is that knowing that reintroducing wolves in the ecosystem that we probably have destabilized in the first place would not make it stable, would I still think it's a good idea to reintroduce wolves in that ecosystem?
No, that's not what I'm asking you. What I'm asking you is wolves weren't in Yellowstone. They were reintroduced.
Okay.
We know that reintroducing wolves had zero benefit, literally zero. What would be your argument against killing off all the wolves in Yellowstone, knowing that wolves have no benefit and we know they're brutally murdering innocent animals?
I don't know, same thing as before. Like like what you're saying is that first of all, I want to see some data for that, but like I'll take you on face value and assume that what you're saying is that wolves did not make any difference for us reintroducing them, right? But the ecosystem that was there in the first place was stable to some extent, right? In one shape or another, there was a predator-prey thing happening there, right?
Okay, and wolves were gone, and then reintroducing the wolves did nothing. So what's your argument against killing off all the wolves in Yellowstone specifically?
I mean, I don't have an argument against. I would say reintroducing the wolves then didn't work and you should try something else.
Like what? Should we reintroduce tigers or I mean, why if we know that it has no benefit introducing carnivorous animals into that particular ecosystem, what would be the argument against killing them off?
Well, so let's put it this way. What you're saying is that we have an ecosystem that has been decimated by humans, right?
What do you mean decimated?
Where the prey population. Well, the reason why we want to reintroduce wolves in Yellowstone is because the fauna is dying out because the elk are eating it, right? That's as far as I know. I don't know a lot about
climate
this
change was responsible for that. So again, reintroducing wolves did nothing to change the flora and fauna, did not alter elk populations, didn't kill off any elk. Elk did not change their migration patterns, their eating patterns, their drinking habits. Didn't do any of that. The only thing that actually reduced elk populations was human poaching. So people with high-powered rifles just shooting them. So knowing that introducing wolves into Yellowstone had zero benefit on the ecosystem, what would be the argument against killing off all the wolves in Yellowstone?
I mean, what you're saying is that the population control of elk should happen by humans, not by wolves, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
But what? Okay, so the problem in that ecosystem, right? That you say that wasn't fixed by wolves being reintroduced, is the fact that elk overgraze, right?
No. Elk were not overgrazing. So again, the changes to the flora and fauna, it turns out it was due to climate change. So
Can you show me some data for that, by the way? Because I'm not like, I see that like vegan, of course, Sky is saying that that's not true, as it says the Yellowstone website says the opposite. So I'm
again, where they're getting their data from, the authors of the paper disavowed the original paper. They did further research, and they found that, again, wolves did absolutely nothing
So there needs to be some research paper to show that, right? Like you can't, like if the authors did further research, then there
let me
needs to be
just
some
quickly
research.
Yellowstone wolves authors disavow paper. This article is from AccuWeather. They interviewed the original authors. You can read this. Get out. Cat's trying to eat my food. Where should I link this? Just in chat?
Yeah, if you can link it in chat, link it in the private chat. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll share it also.
Yeah, but with increasing temperatures and with increasing temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns, you're going to get plants not growing as well as they otherwise would. That seems to be the best explanation for the changes in flora and fauna in Yellowstone. Again, the authors of this original paper, they disavowed their original paper, and they found that the only thing that actually affected elk populations was human poaching. So again, like even if we were to grant that there is some sort of benefit to controlling elk populations in Yellowstone, would you rather have elk get their living guts ripped out of them by a pack of wolves, or would you rather have people blow their brains out and have an instant death with a .30 caliber rifle?
I would rather people not intervene in ecosystems, right? That would be my ideal situation. So, I would rather that ecosystems thrive on their own.
Right, but we know introducing wolves did nothing. And if we're going to assume that reducing elk populations has any benefit whatsoever, why would you not preferentially have human beings kill elk as opposed to wolves?
Because, shall we talk about the context where we commodify animals and we assume that it's okay to kill animals just because we can? Well, because in that context, then I would assume it.
Yeah, so
wolves don't. Well, but wolves don't have any other choice. We do, right? Like the difference is that, yes, I would rather a wild animal kill an animal rather than a human killing an animal, if that's what you're asking. Because in the current context that we're in, humans killing animals is nothing more but another example where we commodify animals. And the whole idea is that we should stop commodifying animals, we as humans.
Okay, so would you rather have humans, let's say, chase down elk and rip them apart with knives, or would you rather them like shoot them with a high-powered rifle? Like, what's the better option?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, I got
so like, if humans were to hunt, would you rather them like literally chase down animals and then slowly cut them into pieces while they're still alive? Until they
of course not. If humans were to hunt,
or would you rather them use a high-powered rifle where they're killed instantly?
I would rather them use. Yeah, I would rather them use a high-powered rifle. Of course, if the two options are humans,
big sharp teeth that they use that are kind of like small little knives, and they bite into animals and rip out their living guts. They literally start chewing on their intestines while they're still screaming in pain. So why would you preferentially have wolves kill an animal as opposed to a human being that has the luxury of a high-powered rifle that can kill it instantly?
Because of the context that we live in, I repeat, because of the context of when you as a human being are killing an animal, you're sending a message, and especially when you do it for the sake of saying it's better for everybody, it's better for the environment, you are sending a message that it is okay to commodify and kill animals, which is a message that we should
You're
never
saying
ever be
it's okay
sending.
for wolves to do that.
I'm saying it's a different. Yes, it's
not
okay for
different.
wolves because wolves. Well, it is because wolves are not moral agents. They don't know any better, whereas we as humans do.
Yeah, and as moral agents, we can choose to kill an animal with a high-powered rifle instead of torturing
Okay,
it to death. So, like,
let's put it this way.
Can you?
But if you see,
wait. Can you name the trait that's lacking in wolves that if lacking in a human being, it'd be okay with a human being brutally torturing an animal to death?
can you say that again? I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted.
Can you name the trait that's lacking in animals
Yeah.
that if lacking in a human being would make it okay for the human being to brutally torture an animal to death?
If human beings wouldn't exist in a system where we exploit and slaughter individuals, that's the trait. Yes.
So you're
basically,
okay with indigenous tribes people spear hunting where they have to chuck a spear at an animal
No.
multiple times?
They're still humans. They're still humans being commodifying animals, aren't they?
I don't know what you mean by commodifying. Like, I mean, wolves are commodifying animals in the same way. They're using.
But wolves don't know any better.
Well, do indigenous tribes people that are running around saying ooga booga while chucking a spear at an animal, do they know any better?
If they do it, then yeah, they do. If they don't, they don't, right?
So I'm assuming the trait is basically mental retardation. So you're fine with like mentally retarded humans going around just torturing animals? Like if somebody with Down syndrome had a cat, you'd be fine with that person with Down syndrome like throwing their cat in a microwave and going like, ooh,
okay,
cat go boom.
Okay, I'll tell you what the difference is. The species. And yeah, it's the difference is the species. And you might say, well, it's a species argument. But the reality is that the human species commodifies all the other species in this animal kingdom. So the reason why we as humans should not be commodifying or killing animals just because we can is because we commodify animals, we as a species.
Okay, what do you mean by commodification?
Like we treat them as objects. We
you think
exactly what we do in the whole animal.
So when a wolf literally rips out the living guts of an elk and chews on its intestines while it's screaming out in pain, does that sound like it's being treated like an object to you?
I mean, it sounds to me like the wolf is using instinct to catch an animal. I wouldn't say that the wolf is commodifying them, right? It's like commodification means that you intentionally go towards treating them as objects, where you intentionally do what you're doing, right? It's not.
That does not sound like a satisfactory explanation of what commodification is. Commodification just means objectifying an animal, a sentient being, as some sort of means to an end to get some sort of wealth or I don't know, resource from them.
Benefit.
I don't see how it's any different. A wolf killing an elk so that it can eat versus a human being killing an elk so that it can eat. I don't see.
So what you're saying is that there's no difference
aside from like moral agency, but I don't know why moral agency would really be an interest to you. In either case, there's a victim. Like again,
so what you're saying is,
would you like if there was a race of mentally retarded human beings that couldn't conceptualize right and wrong, like you wouldn't have any issue with those mentally retarded human beings torturing animals to death?
In which context is the whole population? Are we talking about the same context that we're in right now?
Well, let's say there was some sort of birth defect that gave somebody like some sort of syndrome, like Down syndrome. Would you have a problem with somebody with Down syndrome putting their cat in a microwave and then watching their cat explode after getting cooked alive and then like eating some of the pieces of the cat?
Of course, I'd have a problem with that, but I wouldn't say that it's the fault of the person who doesn't know that what they're doing, right? It's like blaming a child for doing something they don't know is right or wrong.
Right. And if there were children doing something horrible, even though they didn't know what they were doing was wrong, you'd do whatever you could to stop the kid. Like if there was
I would probably die. Yeah.
if there was
We already
like
we
if
already
there,
went down
so
that path.
again, if there was a kid who we know is suffering from like schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a condition where legally you can determine that somebody doesn't know what they're doing. So they don't have moral agency if they're in a schizophrenic episode. So if there was a 15-year-old kid who was in a schizophrenic episode and thought that they were told by God to kill all of their classmates with an AR-15, would you think it's morally wrong for the police to intervene and kill that deranged 15-year-old so that like their entire class wouldn't get killed?
Again. Obviously, I would not want their entire class to be killed if that's what you're saying. But what I'm saying, right, there's a difference, because what I'm saying is that doesn't mean that that kid deserves to die, does it? That kid deserves to be stopped. I'm not saying that that kid deserves to die, because that's the difference, right?
So do the kids in the class deserve to live?
Yes, just as much as that kid who doesn't know what they're doing.
The kids in the class deserve to live. Do the 15, so let's say there's a class of 30 students. Do those 30 students would you say those 30 students are more deserving to live than that one deranged 15-year-old with schizophrenia?
I think they're all equal deserving to live. All of them
you think one
equal.
Life is equal to 30 lives?
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying each individual life matters.
So 30, a class of 30 students versus a deranged schizophrenic child with an AR-15. Who's more deserving to live? 30 students or one deranged schizophrenic kid with an AR-15?
Okay, we already did this argument, Richard. I don't know how much of this debate you watch. We already did this argument, and I understand. Okay, if it's 1 versus 30, obviously it's better to kill the one person to save 30 people, right? In that sense, right?
So what's the moral difference?
I wouldn't say it's
right. So what's the moral difference there versus wolves in Yellowstone that have no benefit to the ecosystem, and we know those wolves are going to brutally murder many different animals, including elk?
Okay, relocate the wolves. Why do you have to kill them?
Okay, so are we going to relocate them to a wildlife facility where they're going to be fed vegan dog food?
I don't know, maybe. Whatever. If there's a solution where you don't kill them, why would you choose to kill them?
So I see that as the only realistic, practical solution.
But I don't think there is anything practical about calling odd man predators. And if you want, we can go into the whole thing about
it. We've done it many, many times. We've made many carnivore species extinct on many different pieces of land. So today, we could just have people go out and hunt wolves in Yellowstone, and they'd basically be eradicated within the week. So I don't know how that's not practical.
Well, I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm not saying that you can't eradicate the predator species. What I'm saying, first of all, it's an oversimplification to call them, as I cleared out in all this discussion, and I don't want to go into it again. But like odd number predators is an oversimplification of a ecosystem, because there's no such thing as a chain in an ecosystem. I mean, there's several chains. There's a whole food web, and a predator that would otherwise be an odd number could be an even number, and that's a different food chain, right? That was one of the arguments. But number two, let's say even if you identify that you can remove and you can easily remove this predator from an ecosystem, you have no way of knowing that removing a predator from the ecosystem wouldn't totally destabilize an ecosystem and make it even worse for the prey.
So we do in the case of Yellowstone.
Well, we don't. Not even in the case of Yellowstone, because
Yellowstone, because for a very long period of time there were no wolves in Yellowstone. We introduced wolves. It made absolutely zero difference to the ecosystem. So in the case of Yellowstone, we absolutely do know, and for some reason you're holding this ideological position that even though we do know, we have all the data we need to perfectly understand that wolves in Yellowstone have absolutely no vital role to play. They're useless. You still want horrible, retarded, carnivorous animals to brutally murder other animals for absolutely no practical reason. It just sounds like you're an ideologue who's completely against killing animals under any fucking circumstances, even if it would benefit the lives of sentient animals.
So first of all, please abstain from using the R word. Just please. I just don't like hearing it. I have friends who are intellectually challenged. I don't want that. I don't want to hear that. So please just.
Well, I'm not
abstain from
talking
using
about your
that.
friends. I'm talking
It
about
kind of
people
triggers.
who are
I know,
retarded.
but the word itself triggers me, and I would ask you, it's a derogative term. Please stop using that
Okay,
term.
could you just
Number
never
one.
use the word skibbity? It really triggers me.
I will not use that word if it triggers you. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, moving on. What I'm saying is that what you said in your article that you provided is that reintroducing what in the article that you said that you sent me, it doesn't say that wolves being in that ecosystem is bad. What it's saying is that reintroducing the wolves in the ecosystem did not work, right? So the solution that we ourselves provided didn't work.
Yeah,
so what I'm saying is then, okay, don't reintroduce them.
So the article wasn't making any normative claims about wolves killing other animals. The article was making descriptive claims as to whether or not the ecosystem benefited. So we know for a fact that in a normative sense, wolves were a negative in Yellowstone because they kill other animals. So we know wolves have no benefit to the ecosystem. It's not like it affects the flora and fauna. It's not like the elk or any other animals that the wolves predate upon are benefited in any way. So again, why would you want carnivorous animals running around Yellowstone for no reason?
So what you're saying is that in the ecosystem of Yellowstone, reintroducing wolves did not work. That's what you're saying, right? But that doesn't mean that wolves have no reason, have no purpose in that ecosystem. In fact, what you're saying proves exactly my point, that we as humans should not intervene in ecosystems, because the minute we intervene in ecosystems, we think we're doing something right, but we're not. Right, so why would you say that if, like even logically thinking, right?
If you don't think we should intervene in ecosystems, then why are you in favor of reintroducing wolves?
I muted you, by the way, because I want to finish my point. So if reintroducing a predator in an ecosystem does worse as you claim, then why would you think it means it changes, right? Then why would you think removing a predator from an ecosystem wouldn't or couldn't possibly do worse?
Because we know the counterfactual. So the counterfactual is wolves were not in Yellowstone before, and adding them made absolutely no changes. So why would you have them in Yellowstone?
Okay, so but that's okay. But that's a problem of reintroducing wolves in Yellowstone, not a problem of reintroducing predators in Yellowstone, right? The problem was reintroducing the wrong predator. But the problem?
Are we supposed to add tigers? Should we add?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. You see, that's the problem. When we mess with ecosystems, we have to mess with them again to make them stable. That's my whole point about calling predators. Because if you think, again, if an element, it's logical. If an element, you remove it and it can do something good, it can also do something bad. It's as simple as that, right? So if you think that reintroducing wolves does something bad, then also removing a predator can do something bad, right? Can you at least agree with that?
What bad would be done by removing wolves from Yellowstone?
I don't know specifically about wolves in Yellowstone, but removing them also doesn't have to be killing them, right? It could mean, again, relocating them.
Okay, well, I don't know of any wildlife sanctuaries that would take in, I don't know how many wolves were reintroduced, and also feed them a vegan diet. So culling them seems to be the most practical option.
But you see, that's one example where reintroducing wolves didn't work, right? But there's an example here in Netherlands where there's a natural park where they reintroduced wolves and it actually worked. So
I don't know if that's true or not. But again, what exactly are the wolves doing? Like, why wouldn't you just encourage hunting, like human hunting, if that were so necessary?
Well, first of all, I would never encourage human hunting. I don't think it's ethical to hunt for humans to hunt.
Okay,
and second,
if it's not ethical for humans to hunt, why is it ethical for wolves to hunt?
I believe that wolves do it out of survival. Humans wouldn't do it out of survival.
Okay, that's right. Humans would be able to make calculated decisions based on actual real-world data. How many animals need to be killed? Wolves might overkill and actually eliminate a prey species, whereas humans could actually, use logic and reason to actually kill a certain number, so that there isn't overkilling. Humans also use high-powered rifles and machines to actually kill animals quickly, as opposed to wolves who use their teeth, and they literally rip out the living guts of these animals and chew on their entrails until the life just gets squeezed out of them. So why would you preferentially want wolves to kill animals if it's absolutely necessary to hunt some sort of prey species?
I don't want wolves to preferentially hunt humans, okay? My whole point about the whole argument is that it's unpractical, okay? My whole point about the whole problem that I have with it is that you say we can calculate all this stuff, yet we have done it before. We have removed predators from certain ecosystems, and it has done nothing well. That's why we're reintroducing predators in certain ecosystems, because we removing them from that ecosystems has messed up the ecosystem, right?
Okay, so that didn't work out with Yellowstone. So for Yellowstone specifically, you still haven't given me an answer for why you have an interest in reintroducing wolves to Yellowstone when they have absolutely no benefit. It just sounds like you have some weird ideological fetish with just having animals kill other animals. Okay, so then why do you have a problem with just getting rid of all wolves from Yellowstone, whether it be through hunting or rehoming them in a sanctuary?
Okay, remove them. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not saying that if wolves are introduced artificially by humans in an ecosystem, if we've messed with an ecosystem, then I think it's at least our duty to keep it, to try to make it balanced again, right? But our duty to keep it in balance doesn't necessarily mean we to introduce ourselves in that ecosystem where we hunt for pleasure, especially in a context where we as humans exploit 80 billion land animals just because we can. I think it sends out the wrong message, right? So if you ask me if I would rather an animal kill an animal than a human kill an animal, yes, in this current context, in the context that we're in, I would rather an animal kill an animal so that it doesn't send the wrong message. Maybe in the future, if everybody in the world is vegan, then maybe we as humans should be doing what you're saying. Maybe, but even then, I still have problems with the whole calculations of it.
Okay, so no one can just go out and hunt. There's actually a lottery system when it comes to hunting permits. You need a permit to be able to hunt. So we're very good at doing this. We're very good at tracking wildlife, how many animals exist, how many animals should be killed, and we track things like deer population. There are people who also hunt bears, hunt wolves. We also track their numbers, and there's a lottery system permitting a certain amount of killing of all these animals. So I don't know how you could argue that it's impractical to have humans manage some of these predatory duties, and why you would preferentially have animals that will brutally murder each other. Well, you're having animals brutally murder each other, and on top of that, animals aren't intelligent. Wolves will, animals kill for fun. Animals will just overeat, overpopulate. You don't think it's possible for wolves to overpopulate and then overkill deer?
Yes.
So
it is.
I don't understand. So, and then, humans have to come in and kill some wolves. If people are going to be interfering anyway, I don't know what your issue is. If we have to do this, I don't know what your issue is with just killing carnivorous animals and then just having human beings come in and do the hunting.
Well, my problem is that just to be clear, what you're implying is that why would we let an ecosystem balance itself out? Because it might not balance itself out because we have already intervened in the past and it's no longer in balance. And no matter how much we try to make it in balance again by reintroducing predators or doing whatever, we cannot get it in balance, right? So what you're saying that since we cannot get it in balance naturally by reintroducing predators is that we should take it into our hand and control this whole ecosystem so that we get it in balance by us, by hunting, by doing whatever we do, right? Is that what you're implying?
Yeah, we're clearly better at it.
Okay, so but in this situation where you say that that's what you're implying, you're saying we're clearly better at it. The reason why we are introducing predators is because we're clearly not better at it. Because today, I spent a whole day trying to look at cases where we have done this in the past, and all that we have reached is we reached places where we realized we don't know enough. No matter how much we track, no matter how much we do, we don't know enough. So what would be is
by the way, what do you even mean by an ecosystem is unbalanced? Because that word is getting thrown around a lot, and I really don't give a shit if there's 10 times as many squirrels in a forest? Like, what does it mean to be unbalanced? Like, unless you can show me that there's some sort of existential threat to humanity killing off all these animals, like, all we really need is like trees to exist to suck up like carbon dioxide to like. So what does it mean for an ecosystem to be unbalanced?
Well, it means exactly that. That like the fauna gets affected. It's not as you said, right? It's not. I agree with you that maybe us having this mentality where we say the population of deers or the population of this other animals needs to be in check, right? What I think an ecosystem, the reason why we control ecosystem or why we try to keep them in balance is number one, biodiversity, so that we have more species. I assume you don't care about that.
Species.
Because we don't understand already, like we don't understand enough the reason why some species exist in nature. So why would we, because we have a lack of understanding of it, why would we choose to say, well, we know better, so let's remove species when that can prove extremely detrimental, right? Number one. And number two, the reason why some of the species, and also why the reason why keeping a high biodiversity is important, is because it can happen that in ecosystems where we remove this balance, that I call it a balance or whatever it is that species tend to overgraze and tend to have fauna being destroyed and tend to have, they share resources with other species and other species end up disappearing because of it, right? So
okay, so at the end let me ask you this. Given that human beings are the number one cause of species extinction and the lack of biodiversity, are you in favor of hunting human beings and killing off humans?
No.
So that, well, why?
No.
You literally just said that biodiversity is important, so we should kill off human beings.
But it's not the most important, is it? Right? Yeah, it's important, but it's not the most important. It's not like
okay. When human beings are the ones destroying biodiversity, killing off species, it's okay. But when other, like, I'm not getting the argument here. So. You care about biodiversity. You care about making sure that there isn't too much of one species. Like, is 7 billion humans enough for you? You could argue that there's too many human beings, especially with modern consumption practices. So, like,
I'm sure there might be,
what's your argument against hunting human beings to protect nature and biodiversity?
I don't think we as humans should hunt anybody. I don't think we as humans should hunt either animals or humans. That's easy, right?
Okay, but humans are the number one cause of biodiversity loss, so...
Okay, and can we reduce that biodiversity loss without killing humans? Probably we can. That's what we're trying to do.
I don't know how that's... I don't know how that is possible. Like, are you going to introduce breeding programs for human beings where people can only have a certain amount of children, like in China? Like the human species is going to continue to grow. We're expected to reach like 10 billion by 2050 or 12
and then
billion.
plateau, yeah.
So like how in the hell are we going to prevent biodiversity loss and loss of wilderness when our population is going to double in the next like 30-40 years?
I don't know. I'm not saying I have answers. What I'm saying, well, we can, but also what you're saying, right? It's that because for the greater good, for the greater of humanity, for the greater of Earth, we should therefore sacrifice certain individuals, which I don't agree with. I don't think it's right to pick and choose because you say it's for the greater good and pick and choose certain individuals where you restrict their rights, or then again kill them altogether because you say that's the only way to do it.
You're picking and choosing by reintroducing wolves into Yellowstone. Oh, there's too many deer. They're eating too much of the grass. Yeah, let's get these horrible, vicious predators to kill them. But then when it comes to human beings, oh no, humans can do whatever they want. Can you name the trait that's lacking in animals that if lacking in human beings would make it okay to reintroduce a predatory species to kill human beings?
It's funny because Harry and Apuda did exactly the same thing. And I mentioned that I told them exactly the same thing. It's about humans not being part of any ecosystem or not a part of ecosystem that regulates itself. Whereas a natural ecosystem is supposed to regulate itself, right? Whereas we as humans regulate, if we are part of any ecosystem where you would call a city or where we live or whatever we as humans have the place where we are ecosystem, then that's an ecosystem that we regulate using logic, using data, using all sorts of stuff. But when you take a natural ecosystem, that regulates, it's supposed to regulate itself. That's why we reintroduce carnivores. That's why we introduce all of this. Well, predators, not carnivores.
Look, human habitation is in conflict with the natural world. If we're going to have more human beings on the planet, you're going to need new houses, new building projects, more cities, more farmland. So I don't understand how you can have these two viewpoints where we have to protect the natural world, protect biodiversity, and prevent overpopulation of certain species. But for some reason, you don't have a problem with humans increasing in population.
Because, well, we as humans increasing in population, we can control that, right? I'm not saying controlling the increase of population. What I'm saying is control the factors, as you say, that we would need more land. Because if we as a population become vegan, then all of a sudden, right, we have enough land to do it. If we as a population start designing cities intelligently where we could fit more people into less land, then we can all of a sudden have more population, right? It's not like the only solution is to stop people from multiplying or to kill people or to kill the other thing, right? In the ecosystem where humans create, there are multiple solutions where it doesn't involve killing anybody.
It's I wouldn't call it a solution. If everybody were to go vegan, that would increase food security, but you're still going to need more human habitation. So if you get a population increase, if we were to all go vegan, we could reduce our farmland. But if the population increases, you're going to have to increase farmland. You're also going to have to build new cities, build new road infrastructure, highways, transit systems. All of that is going to have to require knocking down trees. Again, this seems like a double standard where you have this interest in protecting nature, preventing certain species from overpopulating, because for some reason you're worried like elk are eating too much grass or something. But then when human beings are like knocking down trees to build new roads, like that's not a problem.
Okay, so let me, because I think you're putting words in my mouth and I don't like that. So I'm not saying that elk are a problem because they're eating grass or whatever, right? The reason when I say an ecosystem is out of balance is not because elk are eating grass or whatever, is because the things that elk are eating is a finite source. And at the end of that finite source, the way they're eating it, we can calculate and find out that they themselves would end up starving to death because they wouldn't have any resources, or they would have to migrate to different areas where they would consume those resources and thus eliminate other species. The reason why, when species share resources, the problem is the reason why predators have a role in this ecosystem is because predators keep the number of population in check so that they don't overconsume, so that they can still share resources. The minute that one overpopulates is they use way too many resources. And I understand that that's kind of what we as humans do.
That's not the case in Yellowstone. So again, I don't understand why you have an interest in reintroducing wolves into Yellowstone.
I don't have an interest in reintroducing wolves in Yellowstone. Let me be clear, okay? If you say like I read about it, I read about the Yellowstone. I didn't go into depth into the Yellowstone case, right? I read about it, but if you say that like the Yellowstone case did not work with reintroducing wolves, that's okay. That maybe that wasn't the solution, right? But the reason why they reintroduced wolves, do you think that the people who reintroduced wolves in Yellowstone just did it for the fun of it, or did they do it because there was an ecological reason for reintroducing wolves? And when I say ecological, I don't mean environment, by the way, just to be clear. I mean ecological, for the sake of the animals and the fauna.
Yeah, and that failed. It did nothing.
It did nothing because it wasn't a good solution, right? Like we as humans can fail and it can have solutions that are good or solutions that are bad,
well,
right?
It did nothing because wolves are not a predatory species that seems to affect the population of elk. Only humans affect the population of elk. Humans are the only ones with poaching that seem to affect the population of elk. So,
so are you saying that us as humans involving or trying to change an ecosystem has gone wrong? Is not working? Is that what you're implying?
No, what I'm implying is, why in the fuck would you want wolves to exist in Yellowstone? If you have knowledge beforehand that they have no benefit. So, like in any case where we know that there is no benefit to having a carnivorous species in a given ecosystem, why would you want carnivorous animals to exist?
So let me explain exactly why. So again, I didn't go in depth into this one, okay? Without wolves, and this is specifically about the Yellowstone, without wolves to control the population, elk numbers increased dramatically. This led to overgrazing of willow and aspen trees, which in turn degraded habitats for other species such as beavers and songbirds. Okay, so that's why. That's it.
Yeah, so that didn't happen
because
Alan. By the way, Alan Savory made the same mistake. He had this analysis that elephants were overgrazing and they were destroying a number of the flora and fauna in Africa, and he encouraged this mass fucking culling of elephants. And it turned out he was totally wrong, and elephants weren't actually overgrazing. And he actually, again, said later in one of his TED Talks that that was a massive mistake, and he was responsible for killing thousands and thousands of elephants. So
what you're saying is, yet again, humans intervening in the ecosystem is not okay.
The point I'm making is, let's just assume let's just assume for the sake of argument, we know for a fact a carnivorous species has no benefit in an ecosystem. It doesn't reduce prey populations. It doesn't change their behaviors. And eliminating them would not cause some sort of existential threat to certain species. It wouldn't cause overgrazing where an entire species will end up starving to death. It doesn't do any of that. They're just filling in a useless ecological niche. Why would you have a problem with eliminating that species when you know all they're doing is just torturing and murdering other animals?
So what you're saying is an if towards all that, right? Because I don't want to be...
Well, we're talking about a principle here, and we're talking about ethics, so it doesn't matter if it's hypothetical, but what's your response? Like, what's your answer to that?
In a hypothetical scenario where we could remove one species, as you say, and there would be absolutely no ecological disaster, and we as a human beings have already evolved, have some full understanding of nature, and nothing will happen otherwise, then I don't think I have a problem with it necessarily. I still think it's a bit of a supremacist view. But we agree, and because we get to the same point where this argument of calling predators is highly unpractical, because this situation that you mentioned, where we have all the variables and we know for a fact that it would never ever impact any ecosystem, is non-existent. So why should we right now tell people kill spiders? Why should we right now tell people to kill predators? Why do you think it's ethical for a person now to go and kill lions just because they think, well, lions are predators?
I'm actually relatively confident that we could eliminate all lions without any serious consequences. But again, we have a circumstance like in Yellowstone where we do have all these facts together, that we could wipe out all wolves from Yellowstone, nothing bad would happen. So
again, relocate them, don't kill them.
You agree that if nothing bad would happen, we should eliminate carnivorous animals. So
we'll relocate them, yeah.
Well, okay. Again, I don't know how you're going to relocate thousands and thousands and thousands, and in some cases probably millions of animals, and put them in some sort of habitat where they're fed like some sort of specialized vegan diet. If we could do that, great. But if we couldn't do that, why would you have an issue with killing them off?
The reason why I'd have an issue with killing them off is because it's exactly the same ethical principle that we do with animal agriculture, right? We intervened in an ecosystem, we destabilized it, and we try to stabilize it by introducing an animal, right? Because that's exactly the case that you're mentioning. And in this case where we reintroduce an animal, that animal multiplied, it did not stabilize the ecosystem as we thought. And all of a sudden we say, okay, well, let's fuck up, let's remove this animal because we reintroduced them in the first place, right? So us playing God in ecosystems, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't know. Do you think
you're ignoring what I just said. So
I'm not ignoring what you just said. I'm saying that there is.
It had nothing to do with what I just said. So I just asked you, in the case of Yellowstone, if the only practical solution to getting rid of wolves would be killing them, why would you be against that? Knowing that they have no useful purpose in Yellowstone for, balancing the ecosystem.
Does a wolf deserve to live less than an elk?
Yes, because they're carnivorous.
But so a wolf deserves to live less than an elk because
Yes,
they were
because
born
they're carnivorous.
in a
Yes.
certain way.
Yes.
So isn't that a speciesist attitude where you say because the species is carnivorous?
So you could say this about anything. You could say, does Hitler have less of a reason to live than any Jew? Well, if you grew up in the same circumstances as Hitler, if you were some autistic weirdo who had a fucked up family history, who was manipulated by like some crazy racist dude who believed in this Aryan race, you would be the same as Hitler. So does Hitler have any less of a right to live than anybody else? You could make this deterministic argument about anyone or anything. So the fact
But I'm not
is,
making a deterministic argument. You're making a
is,
deterministic argument.
The fact is, through circumstances of genetics and social factors that Hitler had no control over, he became a monster. Through genetic factors and social factors that wolves have no control over, they become monsters. Why would I have a problem with killing Hitler? Why would I have a problem with killing wolves? That we are all products of our environment and our genetics, and we are the way we are because of factors outside of our control. So, yes, given that wolves, regardless if they have agency or not, are carnivorous and they are going to brutally murder other animals, they do not deserve to live as much as an elk.
But you're assuming that the universe is deterministic, right? Whereas we have no proof of a deterministic universe, right? So what your whole argument
of whether deterministic universe? Were you not the one who just argued that wolves have no moral agency and they're just going to do it because like they're forced to?
Yes, but wolves have no moral agency. So you believe in
determinism?
That's not determinism. But that's not determinism, is it?
So you're telling me a wolf is going to just decide to go vegan and eat, go find like some person who owns a vegan pet and steal vegan dog food so it can live a vegan life?
Dude, that's exactly what I'm saying. That wolves don't have a choice.
Yeah, so
Hitler
so
had a
you
choice.
That's
the opposite of determinism.
So then you believe in determinism. You just admitted wolves have no choice. They have no moral agency. They can't make these decisions. So you're the one making this argument, not me. You're admitting there is a deterministic truth that wolves are going to kill other animals. So if that's the case, and we know these are this is a deterministic reality, wolves will be vicious monsters. Why would you want vicious monsters to exist?
Okay. Well, determinism only applies for animals that don't have agency. Then I'll say it this way because I don't think we'll ever reach an agreement on this one, right? I don't think this is a deterministic argument, right?
It's not like mental health issues. Hitler clearly had mental health issues. Some people argue he may have actually been schizophrenic with how paranoid he was. So you could say Hitler, because of his autism, schizophrenia, mental health issues, all the decisions he made were not necessarily his choice to make. So again, I don't have a problem with killing Hitler either way, whether he chose to be a complete cunt or if he's just a cunt because through like no fault of his own. I'd kill Hitler.
Okay.
I'd kill a wolf whether they have no choice to kill and eat a deer or whether they make the choice to kill and eat a deer. I don't know what difference it makes.
The difference is, does Hitler understand morality?
Okay, if Hitler did not understand morality, would you have a problem with killing Hitler?
If Hitler didn't understand morality, I would have a problem with Hitler coming into power.
Okay,
in the first place.
If Hitler did not understand morality, and you had the choice to kill Hitler either before he came into power, after he came into power, and that was the only way you could prevent the Holocaust, would you have a problem with killing Hitler?
No, I wouldn't have a
So then
problem.
this is a non-issue. Whether we have agency, whether we have free will, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there are people that are horrible monsters. There are animals that are horrible monsters. And whether it's through decisions they've made on their own or deterministic truths, either way, they have qualities that we do not like. And the only way to get rid of them, the only practical way to get rid of them, is to kill them. So whether they have agency or not, whether free will exists or not, it's a non-issue. We've just proven it doesn't matter. So again, why would you have an issue with killing off wolves in Yellowstone knowing that they have no useful purpose and all they're doing is torturing and murdering animals?
Because
Because they're cute and pretty and they look like dogs I like.
no, I don't have any issue. First of all, I don't think because they're cute and pretty. I don't think wolves are cute or pretty in any way, first of all. The reason why I come back to the same thing, because if you ask me, yes, if Hitler deserved to live just as much as any other person deserved to live, but the fact that Hitler deserved to live doesn't justify the actions that he did, does it? Right? Doesn't mean that I wouldn't otherwise kill Hitler to stop him from doing what he's
Hitler
doing.
deserved to live?
Just as much as any other person on this earth, yes. But to the sheer fact of being an individual.
Why would you say that? Knowing Hitler killed 10 million people, including Jews, in the Holocaust alone.
I said it doesn't justify the actions that he did. Do you understand that?
Okay, if like we have the luxury of knowing history, somebody who put 10 million people into gas chambers, you're saying he deserved to live?
I'm saying before he did all that, he deserved to live, right?
We have the luxury of understanding history. We know what he did. So why would a guy who would go on to kill 10 million people in gas chambers, why the hell does he deserve to live?
I don't think he deserves to live. I don't think he deserves to do, I don't think his actions are justified. I repeat, can you separate yourself from the idea that your actions are not necessarily justified just because you, I might deserve to live.
Let me ask you this. If you could go back in time and kill Hitler as a baby, would you do it?
I don't know if I could do it, but obviously I would want to do it if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so you would want to kill Hitler when he was a baby?
I would want to stop Hitler. Yes, I would want to stop Hitler. That's what I want.
Wait. If you could go back in time and I don't know, maybe you're like some kind of baby fetishist and you have problems with killing babies, but if you could send someone back in time like me who has no problem with killing babies, if you could send me back in time to kill baby Hitler, would you do it?
I mean, I guess, because I know for a fact I would send you back in time with the sole instructions to stop Hitler first and foremost,
no,
right?
If the only way to do
wait. No, wait. But this doesn't work in your argument, does it? Because what you mentioned is the fact that we live in a deterministic universe, right? So Hitler became the reason why he became, because it was because of external circumstances. So if I send you there as an external circumstance, that means that you can change the course of history by not killing Hitler, can you not? So he can become a different person. You can stop all the atrocities and not kill
Let's
Hitler.
say the time machine only worked in a way where I can only go back once for one day. So there's no circumstances for which I can change that would significantly alter Hitler's life trajectory. So the only thing I could do was kill baby Hitler. Would you send me back in time to kill baby Hitler?
Of course I would want you to. Yeah, of course I would want Hitler to be stopped if that's what you're asking.
Okay,
yes.
No, that's not what I'm asking. Would you send me back in time to kill baby Hitler?
If I would want you to stop Hitler, if the only way for you to do that is by killing them, then I would say yes, go back in time and still kill Hitler. Again, okay. I repeat.
So, if you're fine with killing a baby before he does anything wrong, knowing in the future he will do something very wrong, why would you have a problem with killing wolves, knowing in the future they're going to do something wrong?
Because I don't think that a wolf killing another animal is wrong.
Sorry, why would a wolf killing another, why would that be not wrong?
Because they're doing it for survival. They have to survive, right?
Okay, so if I were to say, if I were to, I don't know.
Can you think about the hypothetical? I have to go pee right now. Just think of a hypothetical meanwhile, because it's clear that
Okay,
we're going
well,
from
why don't you just
hypotheticals
go
without
take a pee
having
real
to.
quick, and then I'll ask you some more questions.
Yeah.
Because
But
I
can we
don't
just
think
please
this is.
stay
I'm not going to
clear?
need a hypothetical. I'm just going to ask you another clarifying question.
Okay, better.
Well, apparently Hitler deserved to live, but he'd be willing to kill him as a baby. How are you doing here?
But not horrific, not animals that are gonna horrifically rip apart others. Doing good. Vegan Games. Nice to meet you in video for the first time, man.
Yeah, Apuda. I'm not familiar with who you are, but what's up, dude?
Good. I'm doing good. I'm familiar with you. I've been watching your videos since forever. I really miss your skits though.
Yeah. I've got a few video ideas where I might bring some skits back.
Yep.
This is kind of an insane discussion. He seems to just be an ideologue.
So we already went over some of the fun. Like we ran in the trade with like chupacabras and stuff like that, killing humans, and he's like, we've gotten enough to know that there are like fundamental value differences. So
Right. Okay, so you said it's okay to kill for survival. So, what do you mean by that? So, I mean, do you mean survive for 1 day, 10 days? Are there certain contexts in which something couldn't be considered survival? So, say if I were to not want to buy food from a grocery store, if I had no other food option because for whatever reason I just don't want to buy food from a grocery store, could I argue that killing an animal in the forest would be justified because of survival?
No, because you have options, right? It's not a survival situation.
Okay, so
survival situation implies there's no other option.
Right, so if there's some other option. So let's say the only other food I had to eat were gross spiders. Would it be justified to kill deer because the only other food option is icky spiders that taste bad?
What do you mean? You would be killing spiders otherwise, right? It's the same. Why would it be?
Spiders have a lower degree of sentience. Maybe I could say, what if there was like this, I don't know, berry out in the woods that really, really tasted bad and it like nearly made me vomit, and eating it
doesn't matter.
So literally, if there's any other option,
if it's exactly, it doesn't matter if you like the option or not, right? If it's survival, if you have to survive if you have to kill to survive, then I would say morality is kind of thrown out the window. In that
and what do you mean by survival? Because you could, in theory, survive several months without eating.
There you go. Survive several months without eating, and if you're left at a point where you would otherwise die without eating, then you do what you have to do to survive, right?
So survival is anything you would do at a moment in which you have no other choice, or you're just gonna like keel over and die.
There is absolutely no other choice other than you killing a sentient individual. Then I guess it's some form or another justified because it's your life versus their life, right? So why would you assume that their life is worth more than yours? And you as a sentient individual would always try to protect your life more than others. I would say everybody kind of tries to do that.
By definition, wolves don't kill for survival.
So by definition, wolves don't kill well, they kill from instinct, but the instinct is of survival, isn't it?
So they don't, by definition, kill for survival.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you just define survival as doing something you would absolutely have to do in a given moment to avoid death. A wolf hunting an animal is not something they have to do in any given moment to avoid death. They're hunting to be comfortable. They're not eating the minimum amount of food possible to survive. So by definition, it wouldn't be survival, it would be for comfort. So the avoidance of hunger.
Well, the hunger mechanism, right, is a mechanism that is instinctively to avoid dying out of hunger. The reason why we have this signal is for that. So for
Right,
lack,
but,
like the wolves don't know any better. The wolves don't know that they can't survive without killing. They don't know, do they?
Right,
So
but by
what they
definition,
do
they don't
is
kill for survival, so therefore their killing is unethical.
it can't be their killing can't be unethical when they don't know whether they can or cannot kill, right? It can't be like it can't be that something you do is unethical if that's the only thing you can do.
You just gave me an example of survival being something that you would need to do in a given moment to avoid death. So most of the killing that wolves do is not something that they would have to do in any given moment to avoid death. It's to avoid hunger, avoid the pain of hunger.
But you agree
Sometimes
that
they kill
the
for
reason
fun. Sometimes they just want to eat more and fatten up because they know, like, maybe later on they're not going to be able to get food, so they'll try to fatten up as much as they can. By definition, that wouldn't be survival. So by your definition, that killing would be unethical.
well, that is how they survive. What do you mean that wouldn't be survival? That is what their definition of survival is. That is the definition that has been inscribed into their genes as surviving. For wolves, surviving doesn't mean being hungry all to the point until you're almost dying. For wolves, surviving means that, and maybe for us humans, biologically, it's the same. Maybe biologically it's the same, but the difference that we as humans can judge better. We know better. We know that we can survive. We know that hunger is just an instinct and we can surpass our instincts, right? We don't have to give in to our instincts, whereas animals don't have a choice but to give in to their instincts.
Okay, so let's say vampires existed.
So lack of choice.
Right, so let's say vampires existed and they have this insane thirst for blood. It's just an instinct and they have to go out and kill people and drink blood. This is an insatiable thirst that they have no control over. They may drink blood and kill people more than they have to because there's this thirst mechanism. Is it ethical for the vampire to go out and murder human beings?
In a system, in their own system, and if they are conscious of ethics, right? I would assume that they are conscious of ethics, right? The vampires, right, are conscious of ethics. They're not. So they're just like any other predator that would otherwise kill humans, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're just a predator to humans. Is it ethical for a predator to humans to kill a human? I wouldn't say that if a bear attacks a human being, we should kill that bear. Right? I would try to stop them, but if that bear attacked a human being, I wouldn't put that bear in jail or try to kill the bear afterwards, because that wouldn't serve any purpose, would it? I would try to track that bear and keep them to not killing other animals.
So if there was a bear that ran into a vegan restaurant, so most of the people in this vegan restaurant are probably vegan, you would do nothing to prevent that bear from killing human beings who are vegan.
Of course I would do something for. So listen, okay.
So let's say you are a base Chad who is in support of 2A rights, and you carry a 44 Magnum on you. You wouldn't shoot the bear as he's ripping apart somebody in the restaurant.
Of course I would.
Okay,
that's not
so
the point.
You kill a bear who is
in self-defense.
Okay, you'd kill a bear in self-defense to protect a human being.
Yes.
You wouldn't kill a bear in self-defense to protect a deer.
No, because that wouldn't be self-defense. There's no self.
That would be, technically it's not self-defense because you're actually preventing a bear from killing somebody else. So you don't have any, you can just choose to let the bear rip apart another human being. So it's not technically self-defense, it's in defense of somebody else. So you'd be fine with killing a bear to protect somebody in a restaurant who's vegan. Why would you not kill a bear to protect a deer that's vegan by nature? I don't think deer.
Wait, he would kill the bear to just save one human, because earlier he said that the threshold is 2. that if a non-moral agent was killing just one being, he wouldn't intervene. It would be unethical to intervene. But if he was killing two beings or more, he would intervene.
No,
So
not
that
when it
contradicts
comes
what you
to-
said earlier.
Not when it comes to humans. I never said it to humans, did I? I said it. I said it if there's a chupacabra. That's what you were saying, right? If there's a chupacabra, no, I'm not going back to that. I'm not going back to that. It's already been 3 hours.
No,
I'm very tired
the
of
specific
all this
hypothetical,
argument.
the specific hypothetical I was referring to was a human being mind controlled to hack another human into pieces with a machete. You said you wouldn't intervene if it was just one human, but if it was two humans, you would intervene.
If there's a human being mind controlled to kill somebody, yes. If there's a human being mind controlled, what I said, and I'll repeat, is that I would intervene. But the question whether it is moral or not, when a human being is being mind controlled to kill another human being, then I would say it's just as bad to kill the human being that's mind controlled versus the one that is going to die. Because who's to say, like, right? None of them are deciding to be in the position that they are, right? None of them choose to kill this animal. Why would it be?
Yeah, that's
like,
right. So you said it would be bad. You say it would be bad to kill the machete wielding human to save the other human. That's what you said. It would be bad. You would do it, but it would be bad.
I'm saying that I don't like what I said eventually is that I don't know whether it is moral or not. That's what I'm saying, because who's to say that it is more moral for me to kill the person who's doing the killing, who is mind controlled, or because they're innocent when they're doing the killing and they're mind controlled, they're innocent because of that. Who's to say that it's better to kill that person versus the other person who's also innocent, right? Like, that's my point. That was my point in that whole conversation. I don't know which one is.
So you would be agnostic about whether or not it would be good to save the human from being hacked into pieces, but in the bear situation, you would also not know if it would be the hypothetical that Richard provided. You wouldn't know if it would be ethical to kill the bear to save the human.
I in a bear situation, if a bear would be attacking a human being, then it serves a lot of questions, right? Like whether it's ethical or not. Like if a human being goes into a bear hub, like where they sleep, then I don't think it's. I mean, obviously, I would try.
No, the hypothetical was in a vegan restaurant. It was in a vegan restaurant. It was one human being. Would you be agnostic about whether or not it would be a good thing to kill the bear to save one human?
Would I be agnostic whether it's good to kill the bear to save one human? No, I think it's so if the situation is between one bear and one human, again, I would definitely save the human 100%. That's what I would do. But if I would think about the morality of it, then the bear is innocent in this case, right? So I would try to stop them. Would my action, would me killing the bear be a moral thing? I wouldn't call me killing a bear to save a human being moral at any point in time. I still think it's immoral to take the life of the bear.
Unless it was two humans, right? If it's two humans, then it would be moral to kill the bear.
No, that's what I'm saying, because that's the thing about morality, isn't it? Like it wouldn't. Okay, maybe let me see. If it's two humans, they're saying that if the bear attacks two humans,
Jesus Christ, the only way to save the two humans was by using lethal force. Would it be ethical to shoot the bear?
If the only way is to do that, I think it's the least non-ethical way, if that's what we're saying. I don't necessarily think killing a bear is ethical. I think it's the least non-ethical. It's the least, has the least amount of ethical issues. Can we say that? I don't think it's necessarily reaches the threshold where it's all of a sudden ethical to do so.
Okay, so
I just thought you contradicted something you said earlier, but okay, that's consistent there.
Okay,
Richard, you can go on, sorry.
If that's the best outcome, to kill a bear to prevent them from killing a vegan, why would you have a problem with killing a bear to save a deer?
Why would I have a problem with killing a bear to save a deer?
And if you think it'd be wrong for you to kill a bear to save a deer, then name the trait that's lacking in animals that if lacking in a human being would make it okay to let a bear kill and eat a human being.
I think it's wrong to kill anybody, first of all. I don't think killing is
even Hitler,
ever.
it's wrong to kill Hitler?
If that's the only way to stop Hitler, right? Like well, you keep bringing it back to Hitler, and I'll bring it. I'll make it very clear about Hitler. I make it very, very clear about Hitler. Okay, if the only way to stop Hitler was to kill him, I think you should definitely kill him. Like, but if there's another way where you can stop Hitler without killing them, then stop Hitler without killing him, right? Would you say, like, if let me ask you this: if you could stop Hitler without killing him or stop Hitler by killing him, which one would you choose? Both of them, stop him at exactly the same time instantly.
I'd kind of just want to kill him.
Yeah,
anyway.
if we could force him to be vegan or something, and like incarcerate him, maybe I choose the non-lethal force. But yeah.
I don't know, maybe incarcerate him. I don't like, right? I don't like the idea of killing. I just don't. I don't like killing. I don't think I agree that sometimes it's needed. There are situations where it's needed to stop certain atrocities from happening, right? But when it comes to, and that's obviously when it comes to humans, there is a certain thing where we as humans, when we talk about morality, right? If I accidentally run an animal with my car versus I intentionally go and steer towards the animal, there's an obviously different moral value towards value to my action.
But what would be the issue with killing a bear to save a deer? And if you are against killing the bear to save the deer, then name the trait that's lacking in animals that if lacking in a human being would make it okay to let a bear kill and eat a human being.
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it would be ethical for me to kill a bear to save a deer. I don't know. I'm agnostic. Just like I'm agnostic about, like again, if there's two innocent people, look, I don't know if it would be ethical for me.
Look, I don't think that's a really satisfying answer. Like, I mean, if we were debating a carnist whether or not it's okay to kill and eat animals, and they say, I don't know, but they still hold this position at the end of the debate that, yeah, I'm still in favor of eating animals. I don't know why, but whatever. Like, that's just not a satisfying answer. So you're going to have to actually give us an explanation either way.
But my explanation is, it's the same as in the context of humans, right? If you have two innocent people trying to kill each other for whatever reason, right? Out of context, right? Let's just put it this way, there's a rock coming between two people and you can only save one person. There's a rock that's falling and it's going to crush two people and you can only run and save one person. Who are you to decide which person deserves to live, right? I would say both of them deserves to live equally, right? I'm throwing a hypothetical out there too, right? So in the scenario where there's an animal versus another animal who are both innocent, it's the same scenario in my head, right?
The bear isn't innocent because we know it's going to kill other animals, so I don't see how that checks.
But every time the bear...
The proper analogy here would be if there's a rock about to kill two people, one person's a serial killer, one person is not a serial killer, who do you save? I'm going to save the person who isn't the serial killer.
Yeah, for sure, probably. Yeah, actually not for sure. Yeah, for sure, I would do that, yes. But if we're bringing it back to the let's put it this way, like let me explain why I think it's not the same. Because if you have the rock is about to drop on two people, right? And one of them is a vegan and a bodybuilder, and the other is a vegan and not a bodybuilder, right? And the vegan bodybuilder will obviously consume more calories, therefore more crop deaths, whereas a vegan that's not a bodybuilder will consume less calories and there's less crop deaths. Which one would you save?
The bodybuilder.
You would save the bodybuilder, you see?
Yeah,
why? Because it's more complex than that.
Actually generating less harm. They're creating a greater demand for human habitation. So I would preferentially save the bodybuilder. The vegan bodybuilder probably also may, if all else is equal, be more effective for animal rights, because a better looking, muscular vegan is probably going to convince more people to go vegan than some normal dipshit.
So, but you see, you have what the justifications that you brought up there were things that you don't have any data to back up on any of this, right? There's no way of you saying that when you say, because at the end of the day, what you're saying is that
I don't really care because this has nothing to do with anything. So again, why would you be against killing a bear when it's about to kill a deer, but you're in favor of killing the bear when it's about to kill a human being? So you haven't given us an explanation.
I mean, I think I said this at the beginning also. If I would see a bear attacking a deer, I would obviously try to stop that from happening, right? I would.
Well, you're not going to stay for the rest of your life around this bear. So,
yeah,
you can either make a decision to kill the bear or scare it off by throwing rocks at it, and then it's just going to go on to kill another animal. So again, knowing the bear is in fact going to kill more animals in its lifetime, why would you have a problem with killing a bear if it's about to kill a deer, but you wouldn't have a problem with killing a bear if it's about to kill a human being?
Why would I have a problem if the bear is about to kill? Because let's assume that this bear, because I'll come back to this, right? The bear, if I see the bear in a city, I would assume that probably the bear is going to be dangerous. What I will try to do is try to stay away from humans, right?
The bear is dangerous.
Why would I have a problem if the bear is about to kill? Because let's assume that this bear, because I'll come back to this, right? The bear, if I see the bear in a city, I would assume that probably the bear is going to be dangerous. So what I will try to do is try to keep the bear away from humans, right?
The bear is dangerous to other animals, like the deer. So again, this doesn't...
Not necessarily. Bears are omnivorous, right?
Yeah, they kill animals. They kill animals, dude. So again, answer the question. If you're fine with killing a bear to save a human being, why do you have a problem with killing a bear to save a deer?
I'm trying to think I'm trying to understand the logic in my head why that is happening. Okay, so now that's why I keep bringing it up to other things. It's not.
Well, just stop changing the topic. Just actually make an argument.
But part of it is part of the I wasn't changing the topic. The other stuff were part of the argument itself on why I see that obviously there is some form of bias towards me protecting humans versus protecting other animals, number one, right? But I wouldn't necessarily go down that route and say that I'm a speciesist, because I don't want to be a speciesist, right? I don't want to be that. So that means that with depending on like this isn't a case of what I would do, but rather what I think is moral to do, right? So in the case of, as I said before, when in the case of an animal attacking a human, if the only way to stop them is to kill them, I would kill them, right? But if in that case an animal attacking another animal, the only way for me to stop them is to also kill that animal, then yeah, for some reason I think, well, not for some reason, let me think. Well, I'm very tired. It's been 3 hours. Let me think.
Violence has to be justified, right? So if you're going to say I'm fine with violence being committed against an animal, but I'm not fine with violence being committed against a human being, but you can't explain why you're fine with violence being committed against an animal, then I don't see how you justify that position. Like if I was arguing with a meat eater, like Isaac Butterfield, when I debated him, he said this: I literally can't think of a reason for why it's okay to kill and eat animals. If that's your position, then you're going to have to admit that, okay, it's wrong to kill animals until I can come up with some sort of reason. I think at this point, if you can't...
But I did say it's wrong.
For why you have this difference in treatment, you're going to have to admit it's wrong for animals to kill other animals.
But I did say it's wrong for animals to kill. I do think animals being killed is wrong. I just don't think that it's wrong for the animal.
You actually said it's okay to kill for survival, so you didn't.
Okay, let me rephrase it again, because I think I don't think, and I mentioned this. Wait, I fucking mentioned. You see, I'm fucking tired. I'm done. Okay, after this, I'm done, because I'm getting tired, and the words are coming back into me, and they're playing back against my friend. Okay, what I said in the context of a bear attacking a human being is pretty clear. I said, okay, I would probably intervene and help the human, but whether I think that is moral or not, as I said, I think it's just as immoral as it is when there are two people. That's how we got into that whole situation. Okay, when there are two people. Okay, if both of them are people actioning that are not moral agents, they're in a situation where they don't know what they're doing is right or wrong. If both of them are innocent and one of them is about to die, whether that's people or whether that's animals, I don't think it's moral to intervene or to be all of a sudden you choose which one it is. But that's different from what I would do, right? That's what I'm saying. What I think is moral isn't necessarily what I would do also, okay?
Okay,
And
well,
it is consistent in that case of
we're
animals as
asking
well
you
as
about
humans.
what you think is moral, so this is kind of a dodge.
There you go.
So I don't.
But that's
I
what
don't
I'm saying
know why
is more.
you're like. Look, if you're going to retroactively go back and say, "Oh, everything I said was bullshit," I didn't actually.
But I
answer
didn't.
Honestly.
I didn't. That's exactly what I said.
Look,
What I said
point
about
of
the
this
humans was
debate
exactly
is to
this.
debate moral principles. If you're going to say, "Oh, well, I would do this," but I don't think that's actually moral, and you're just going to retroactively go back and say, "Oh, every answer I gave actually isn't honest. I was talking about something completely different."
But that's what I'm saying. The answer that I gave was this one in the beginning. That's the answer that I gave in that situation where a bear would attack a human being. That's exactly what I said. I don't think it's ethical or moral to kill the human.
So do you think it's moral or not to kill a bear to save a human?
No, it's not moral to kill a bear to save a human.
Do you think it's moral to kill a human to save a human?
This situation will depend if this human has bad intent or not, right? If there's this whole thing, right?
Has good intentions when it's killing anything?
I think the bear doesn't understand the idea of good intentions or bad intentions.
Well, we already covered this. Moral
Yeah, we already
agency
covered this.
It has no bearing on this topic. So a bear doesn't have good intentions when it's killing anything, whether it be a deer or a human. So if you'd be fine with killing a human to save a human, but you wouldn't be fine with killing a bear to save a human, name the trait that's lacking in an animal that, if lacking in a human, would make it okay for a bear to kill a human.
I already said moral agency. You just don't like that answer.
Well, we've covered this topic already. So if moral agency is the point, assuming we live in a deterministic universe where we likely do.
No, assuming we live in a deterministic universe, because I don't agree to a deterministic universe. If we live in a deterministic universe, but I don't agree. Well, I don't think my actions are deterministic. I don't think what I'm saying right now is already predefined. I don't think anything that comes out of my mouth right now is predefined.
Okay, so first of all, you agreed that determinism does in fact apply to animals. So even if you don't think it applies to humans generally, you did admit.
I don't think determinism. Let me. Okay, I'm sorry if I said that. Okay, but what I'm saying is not that determinism applies to animals. What I'm saying is that animals don't have. They do have choices. Animals do have choices and do make choices. What I'm saying is that animals don't make logical choices. They don't make moral choices like we do.
I don't know how you could possibly argue that. Like, look, we don't have we don't have infinite free will. We can't live forever. We can't explore the universe. Even if we do have a capacity to make choice, our choice is clearly severely limited. That's certainly the case with animals. We know for a fact that if a bear exists, it's going to kill other animals. So if we already know the outcome, we do, at least to some extent, live in a deterministic universe. We can make predictions that also suggest determinism. People will kill other people. That's just a reality. There are going to be people with mental health issues. There are going to be people with mental health issues like Hitler, who likely suffered from schizophrenia, and you could easily argue that many of his decisions weren't true decisions that were made of his own accord. You could say his mental health issues kind of drove him to do certain things, particularly when it came to absurd military decisions that made absolutely no sense, like attacking Russia because he had severe paranoia. So, look, I don't know what... Like, if you're going to admit, if Hitler did not have the capacity to make choices and had no moral agency, but you'd be okay with killing Hitler.
But I don't say that.
I don't know
think
why
Hitler didn't have that.
I don't know why. Let's just say if we lived in a deterministic universe, just for the sake of argument, would you have a problem with killing Hitler?
If we lived in a deterministic universe, would I have a problem with killing Hitler? No, obviously not.
So what does this do for you? Nothing. If we live in a deterministic universe, and if we live in either universe, a deterministic universe and a universe where choice exists, in either case, you're going to have a preference. So you're going to have a preference to, say, reduce the amount of rights violations that are taking place. I don't know what moral agency is doing for you in the circumstance that's changing the moral landscape. So if we know a bear is going to kill multiple animals throughout its existence, including, in this case, a human being, why would you care if a bear is making a choice or not, is a product of determinism or not? You have a certain set of preferences to reduce rights violations. So again, why is it okay, in your opinion, to kill a... I don't even know because you keep going back and forth. Like, are you okay with killing a bear to save a human, or are you not?
I said, so are you asking me if it's moral? And I said, it's not moral. It's not moral to kill a bear to save a human. I don't think it's moral.
Okay.
Because the reason why I keep coming back and forth is you're asking me if I'm okay.
So because of the moral
because
agency?
of moral agency.
Okay, so if we lived in a... let's just say the bear has choice and it's making a choice to kill a human when
Moral
it doesn't have to. Would it be okay? Yeah, it's making a moral decision. Would you be okay with killing the bear?
Yeah, if the bear understands morality and is making a moral decision to kill a human being, that I would be okay to stopping somebody from having a bad intent on killing somebody else, whether that's animal to animal or human to human or human to animal.
So
animal to human.
How does moral agency change your preference in the outcome? Like what are you what are you trying to get out of an outcome?
Well, first of all, it's like we started from a whole different argument and we got to this.
Well,
okay,
that's fine. What are you trying to get out of the outcome? Like, what do you want to see?
Out of the outcome, when I see a bear attacking a human being, what is it that I want to see out of that outcome? That's what you're asking me, right? Like, what is it that I think the best moral outcome would be?
Yeah, what's the best moral outcome if a bear is attacking a human being?
If we're in a hypothetical universe where the bear has moral agency, then I would say, and the bear attacks a human being, then I would say that the human being is innocent, the bear is guilty. Therefore, so for me, my threshold is innocence or guiltiness. That's what it is. If somebody is innocent, then they deserve to live just as much as somebody else who is innocent.
So if we know this bear is innocent in the way that it doesn't have moral agency, kills a human being, fucks off, goes back to the forest, kills a deer, goes to a convenience store, steals some Snickers bars, goes back to the forest, kills another deer, goes back to the same convenience store. The convenience store clerk tries to shoo it off with a broomstick, kills that convenience store clerk, goes back to the forest. Like, it's just going to keep killing things. So, okay, you could say the bear is innocent because it doesn't understand moral agency, but what outcome do you want to see? Like, do you really want an animal that's innocent to keep killing other animals?
Do I really want an animal that's innocent to kill other animals? I don't want, if you're asking me if I want suffering to happen in the wild, of course I'd rather there wouldn't be. But I also understand, again, we come back to the practicability issue of it, right?
We're not talking about
all day long.
We're not talking about whether or not something's practical. We're just talking about moral principles now. So
okay, we're talking about moral principles.
Let's go back to the Hitler analogy. Let's say Hitler was a bear, but it was a super intelligent bear that, talked about how Jews were evil, and then everybody's like, hey, this bear is onto something. And this bear lacked moral agency. Would you have a problem with killing this bear that wants to eradicate the earth of Jews?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry. I got lost in the whole idea that Hitler is a bear.
Let's say there was a bear that came from the woods that could speak German, and it had the same lack of moral agency that all other bears have. The only difference is it could speak German and was very intelligent. And for some reason, this bear really hated Jews, and he started talking to Germans about how Jews are evil and they're ruining the country. And everybody was like, wow, a talking bear, and he's making a lot of sense. And this bear became the leader of Germany, and he convinced people to round Jews up into concentration camps. Would you have a problem with killing this bear that lacked moral agency?
So this bear lacks moral agency, but can all of a sudden become
Yeah,
okay.
that's right.
It's an hypothetical. What is lacking moral agency? I think we need to define that before I respond to this. What does lacking moral
use
agency
moral
mean?
agency as your own, as the trait. So I think you understand what moral agency is.
Okay, but then I come back to the same thing. You can't throw a hypothetical where you say this bear is lacking moral agency and yet makes a moral claim where he says that Jews are bad, right?
Well, he's not.
If this bear lacks moral agency, he can't make moral claims.
You can make moral claims, but lack moral agency. You just don't understand what those claims mean.
Okay, so a bear that is Hitler, that is supposed to kill millions of people, obviously, I would say it's moral to kill the bear, if that's what you're asking me.
So then moral agency is doing nothing here. You're just looking for certain...
Well, not in the situation... Moral... Well, in a situation, in the hypothetical you threw, yeah, probably moral agency doesn't really make a lot of sense, but in other situations, it could.
What's the difference?
What's the
symmetry breaker here? Like, the only difference I see is the talking bear that becomes the leader of Germany is just killing many, many Jews, whereas the bear that's living in the woods is just killing many animals and maybe a few humans.
What's the intent of the bear?
Well, we know the intent of the bear. It has no moral agency. It's just going on instinct. And for whatever reason, the German bear leader is just going on instinct and has an instinct to kill Jews.
So there's such a thing as an instinct that detects somebody's religion, and it doesn't really matter if that person switches religion, all of a sudden there's a different thing, right?
Well, no, Judaism is an ethno-religion, so even if somebody isn't religiously Jewish, Germans would still kill Jews based on ethnicity.
Okay, you mean ethnically. So this bear has the hate for, just wants to kill. Oh my God, such a hard hypothetical. I would say, yeah, like in this system that you posed, it's obviously it would be moral to kill the bear,
what's the
right?
symmetry breaker? Because
the symmetry breaker is okay. I know. The symmetry breaker is that a bear in Germany, being the leader of Germany, is not part of any ecosystem, whereas a bear in the woods is part of an ecosystem.
Okay. I don't like what the fuck does that matter?
Well, it matters for the same reason, right? Because what you said is that we as humans should not intervene with ecosystems. Well, you said we should intervene, but we said that when we intervene, things go fuck up. Like I also didn't get that whole position, but what you're saying is that what I'm saying is that ecosystems should be left to thrive and behave as they do behave, and we as humans should not intervene in that ecosystem, right? That's what I'm saying.
For me, supposing the bear doesn't have any useful part to play in the ecosystem, you'd be fine with killing the bear?
If the bear doesn't have any useful part in the ecosystem, I'd be fine with trying to isolate the bear. I don't know if I would be fine with it.
If the only thing you could do is kill the bear, you wouldn't have a problem with it?
I don't think I would. No, okay. So I don't think I have a problem with I don't think it's I also wouldn't know if I don't know if I would call it moral again, but like morality for me and ecosystems, they don't necessarily match together, right? You can't say there's morality within nature. There isn't. But within this hypothetical scenario where if we remove the bear and there's nothing bad happens, then
so, like, when we get down to
I still think it's bad.
Well, look, when we get down to it, I think you agree with our position more than disagree. The only issue you seem to have is with practicability. if we had the technology,
that's what I said from the beginning.
Well, right, but I mean, well, it sounded at first you had like actual ethical disagreements with us, where you were trying to argue that there's like some sort of moral issue with killing species because of like moral agency.
Yes, now.
It seems that we've gone over that. So, like, the only disagreement here seems to be with practicability, and I think most people here would agree we shouldn't go out and start killing all carnivores. But
thank you.
Do you think
that's what I'm
should,
saying?
Do you think we should move towards, you know, developing a political interest and a technology that would allow us to modify these ecosystems to be more ethical?
And it would be justified to kill some on the meantime.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily all carnivorous animals, but it would be justified to kill some other ones.
But why would it be justified to kill some but not others? Why would that? But because that would still be us intervening
to
in
save some animals from being eaten alive.
Yeah, I mean,
but
Richard, I think there is like a moral principle difference, like because it's just not like a practical thing. Like I mean, Chip can clarify, but I think there is like a value difference as well. It's not just
there is definitely a value difference. Yeah,
well,
there's definitely a value difference. I wouldn't say there's no value difference, but like even within differences in values, I can still like the only reason, even with differences in value, the only reason why I think this argument doesn't make sense morally, especially, is because of all these fucking extra variables added into hypotheticals, which you bake in and say, what if this, 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 and then maybe in the what if scenario, this argument kind of makes sense, but in the scenario, in the world that we live in, this argument doesn't fucking make any fucking sense.
Well,
that's what I'm trying to say.
We do have wildlife organizations that track wildlife numbers, and there is a lottery system when it comes to permitting hunting of bears, wolves, literally any species. So I don't know why you'd have an issue with people going out and hunting bears, knowing that there's caps on killing a certain number of bears and wolves and shit, when we know killing a bear may save the lives and improve the lives of a number of animals. Like just a few hundred fewer bears or wolves. That means there's going to be some deer that aren't going to have to worry about getting chased by some like gigantic monster that's going to rip them into
pieces. Do we
know
that?
They're not going to have that kind of anxiety all the time. There are some animals that aren't going to actually end up being murdered either. Like, it objectively improves these animals' lives. So, like, what's the argument against, like, at least for now, getting a hunting license and going out and killing some bears and wolves?
So what you're saying, what you also said in this discussion, is that there already is this population control of predators also happening, right? What I'm not against population control of predators. That's not what I'm saying, right? What I am saying is that we shouldn't do population control of predators for ethical reasons to save the moral high ground the moral high ground. I'm sorry, I'm tired. To save because of a moral issue of what they do to prey, but rather because of ecosystem balances, because at the end of the day, it's at the interest also of prey for the population of both prey and predators to be in check. So yes,
that is in direct conflict with what you just said, where you'd be fine with killing a bear if it were going to put a human being or an animal at risk.
It's not. Again, the ecosystem thing.
You just said you'd be fine with killing a bear to save a deer if the bear wasn't necessary for the ecosystem. We know for a fact not every single bear in existence is necessary for the ecosystem. So I don't see what your problem would be with
because we don't know for a
lottery
fact.
Tickets for hunters to kill 100 bears when there's a few thousand living in the woods.
Because the ethical issues with that one is, number one, we don't know for a fact that every single bear is necessary for an ecosystem. If we have an ecosystem of 5 bears in total and a lot of prey, we don't know that killing one bear wouldn't make the whole ecosystem stable. But let's assume you do know that it makes the whole ecosystem
in
stable.
fact know
How do you decide which bear? Like, how is it moral to decide which bear is supposed to die, right? Like,
whatever
that's
bear
also a moral
crosses
issue.
your path and you want to shoot.
and that's moral. That you think that's more moral, right?
Yeah, because I know
that
for
bear
a
somehow
fact the bear
deserves
is
to
going
live
to
less.
kill many animals throughout its lifetime.
I don't know what to tell you. I like what I. So let me
Like,
just
sorry, how
explain
can
my
you make the
position
claim that
clearly.
every single bear is necessary for the ecosystem? Like, care to qualify that with any evidence? Like the
Well, I
death
don't
of
have
one
it. Just
single
like
bear is going to destabilize an ecosystem. Like how?
I don't have evidence for it. Just like you don't, like my claim is like I don't have evidence that one single bear can removing one single bear can destabilize an ecosystem. Just like you don't have evidence that removing one single bear could not possibly destabilize an ecosystem. Of course,
Yeah, I do.
you can make it.
Yeah, I do. People kill bears, dude. I don't see that actually
And
causing any harm.
ecosystems are destabilized. Well, just because you don't see it doesn't mean like
Look, they
are
give
you
out
constantly
like again. There's these wildlife conservation organizations. They're funded by hunters, and hunters will pay a lot of money, sometimes thousands of dollars, in order to get a permit to kill something like a bear. There's a limited amount of these tickets, these permits that are given out. They do this because they know there's a certain amount of bears in the woods that can be killed before there's some sort of issue that arises. So, you don't have to take my word for it. These organizations probably know a lot more than I do. So, there are hunting permits that are given for bears, and I don't see the world ending because a few people kill a few bears.
Okay.
So, what's your argument against killing a certain number of bears each season?
I don't have an argument. If expert, I don't claim to be an expert in this. I'm not. Like if experts believe that for the sake of that ecosystem to thrive for both prey and predator, as I said, it is beneficial that we kill or relocate, not just kill, because again, I think like there's a bias towards killing them, but maybe we could relocate them. I don't know enough to say that, but I do think that, as you said, all of these organizations are funded by hunters, so therefore there is a bias towards hunting them, right? So if there is maybe a possibility where we can relocate them, then I would suggest relocating them. If they realize that keeping them alive would destabilize an ecosystem, that maybe, I don't know, the reason the ecosystem is fucked anyway is because we intervened. So I don't know if we should intervene. Like I don't know. Like I don't have all the data or know better. What you're asking me is if it's ethical or not, right? And what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, I don't think human beings intervening in nature is ever ethical. I don't think it is. I think.
Look, let me just get this clear. Like, you are in favor of relocating bears from ecosystems. Is that right?
If we have the situation where you said that certain bears are detrimental to the ecosystem or are whatever, then yeah.
They don't have to be detrimental. There could be like bears who have like a null effect on the ecosystem.
So then why would you relocate them? Why would you even kill them? If they have a null effect, why would you kill them?
They have a null effect in the sense that, they are still going to kill animals, but they are not like going to destabilize the entire whatever that means.
Okay.
Yeah. So are you in favor of relocating them?
No, I'm in favor of letting ecosystems be what they are.
Okay, I think he just has an ideological position against just
Isn't that the moral? Isn't that morality an ideological position?
You just have an ideological position. It's not like an actual logical position in favor of something. It's just based on being an ideologue.
No, it's not. The whole reason why.
Dude, you can't really explain to us why you have these positions. You're just saying, I just think this way. So this is just
I'm saying ecosystem. I'm just saying ecosystems, the reason why ecosystems is important for ecosystems to be in balance is so that all predators, all prey, and absolutely all animals in the ecosystem can thrive in that ecosystem. That's why.
So you just said you'd be against relocating a bear that had a null effect on an ecosystem and putting him in some sort of
Yes.
So yeah, so this is
That doesn't go against the point that I just said.
This is an
but that doesn't go
ideological
against the point.
position against having any sort of influence in the natural world. It's not based on any ethical position or any sort of logical position. It's just an ideological.
But there is a logical position. That's not true. The logical position is time and time again, whenever we intervene in ecosystems, it has proven that we have fucked up ecosystems.
He just asked
That's the logical
you,
position.
He just asked you, would you be in favor of relocating a bear, not killing it, putting it in some sort of like a sanctuary if it had a null effect on the ecosystem?
Is that not
no.
But is that not still intervening in ecosystem?
Yeah, that's the
I'm
point
just
we're
saying,
making. We're
Why
in
would we
favor of
care about
intervening. You're against intervening, and it's for an ideological reason, not for any kind of ethical reason.
No, my reason is that, okay, so what you're saying in a hypothetical scenario where there is some form where you know for a fact that removing a bear wouldn't change absolutely anything from that ecosystem, what you're saying is that if there is this hypothetical where removing one bear, we don't know anything that would remove from this ecosystem, we should kill that bear because they would otherwise kill other animals, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It sounds bonkers to me. It just sounds bonkers because first of all, it implies the ideology that we as humans can decide the fact that this bear is optional to this ecosystem, number one. Number two is you decide which life of which bear deserves to live more than others. So there's a certain moral issues. It's just that I decide. Is the only difference between you three and me basically is that I have certain moral values and you have other moral values. But make no mistakes, it's the same thing at the end of it. Because
we make evaluations on who lives, who dies all the time. When it comes to criminals stealing property, harming other people, when it comes to people on transplant lists for kidneys, we make these evaluations all the time. So this is how the world works. We know for a fact
I don't think people should be
kill
killed.
other animals. We have an interest in reducing rights violations. This whole idea that it's wrong to play God because, oh, you're imposing your ethical values on somebody else. Yeah, we do that all the time. Everyone has an interest in doing that. We have outcomes that we want to see. And we want to see an outcome where there's less rights violations. I think you can agree with that, but for whatever reason, you have this weird self-contradictory ideological position against fucking around with nature.
No, it's first of all, it's not self-contradictory, right? What you're saying is that what you are saying is that removing a bear, with a certainty that removing a bear, first of all, with a certainty somehow that removing a bear would imply less deaths of prey, whereas removing a bear doesn't necessarily, and without destabilizing the system, you also know all of this. Like you start on the premise that you have all of this data to know that what would happen to an ecosystem when you remove a bear. And when I mean the ecosystem, I do mean the population of both prey and the predator, right? And in an ecosystem, there isn't just one predator and just one prey. There's usually multiple, and it's a whole complex ecosystem. So maybe removing one bear, right, has seemingly no effect on the things that we number, but maybe it does have other effects on different areas. Okay. So maybe at the end of the day, removing one bear doesn't actually end up saving population. That's my point. Like if you don't have the exact data saying that removing one bear saves a lot of prey, then don't do it.
Okay, so if a carnivore dieter were to drop...
I can't go. I'm sorry. I can't go into more hypotheticals. It's been 4 hours for me.
This isn't a hypothetical. If a carnivore dieter were to drop dead, would objectively fewer animals be killed?
If a carnivore dieter would
if Sean Baker or somebody, if they drop dead, would fewer animals be killed?
Possibly, yes.
What do you mean possibly?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Let's say yes.
So they eat nothing but meat. Would their environmental footprint be reduced because they're dead?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So what's your issue with killing meat eaters?
The issue with animals being part of an ecosystem is that the ecosystem is far more complex than just prey, one predator, one prey.
Yeah, right. But with human beings, they're not part of like a natural ecosystem. They just live in human land.
Exactly.
So you'd be fine with killing meat eaters at least?
No. Why would I be fine with killing meat eaters?
Well, we know the outcome. We know every outcome that would happen. We know for a fact that fewer animals would be killed, their environmental footprint, both with their food choices and any other form of consumption, would be reduced. They can't drive a car, they can't fly in an airplane, fewer animals would die. We know every outcome that would happen. So, given that we know every single outcome, why would you have a problem with killing somebody like Sean Baker?
I would have, so let's put it this way, right? Just to explain my position pretty clearly. I believe that people who kill humans, serial killers who kill humans, should be treated the way as serial killers who kill animals as humans, right? I don't think there's any difference in that treatment. So I don't agree, by the way, with the death penalty for any people on this world, right?
We're not talking about the death penalty. We're talking about just choosing to go out and kill people.
Exactly, but choosing to go out and kill people, what you are talking about is the death penalty, because what you're saying is that they should be penalized with death for the fact that they kill multiple animals. Yeah. That's what you're saying. And what I'm saying,
the difference
that's what it is.
It's not a government.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean lawfully penalized necessarily. But what I'm trying to say is that I think that these individuals should be educated. I think they should be rehabilitated and reach a point where they stop killing animals. I think they should be forced to stop killing animals. Yes, I agree. I actually think that people who are carnivorous should be forced to not kill animals. But I don't think that we should kill them. I think that's such why would you choose violence?
Hey, Richard,
not violence.
I'm almost done making my point here. So you think people should be taught not to kill animals and go vegan. So let's say this person was killing and eating human beings, and the only way to stop them was to shoot and kill them. You wouldn't have a problem with doing that, right?
If I catch them in the act of doing it, I don't know if I guess I wouldn't have a problem, yes.
So we know for a fact, like, no time soon we're going to have any laws to prevent people from killing animals. So you'd be against somebody killing and eating animals over the course of their lifetime. Again, for the foreseeable future, they're going to just keep killing animals. But if they were killing human beings, you'd intervene immediately. So can you name a trait that's lacking in animals that if lacking in human beings would justify killing human to immediately...
This is what I hate about this whole argument, is that you keep bringing it back to speciesism, and I keep trying to tell you that my position is exactly the same. If I see a human being, let me rephrase it this way, right? If I see a human being attacking an animal, I would say it's justified for somebody to use force to stop that human being. Whether that force leads to death or not, I hope not, but if it does, you try to do the right thing.
If that human slaughterhouse workers?
Not in the context, because slaughterhouse workers are not people who choose to kill animals, right?
Well, they could choose a different form of employment.
It's a bit more complicated than they choose to be in those positions.
They choose to work there.
I disagree on that one. Let's just put it this way. I disagree on that one.
Survive?
They don't need it to survive, but it's more complex. It's a more socioeconomic complex. It's a more socioeconomic
killing
complex
is justified.
issue.
Okay, so killing is justified because, well, there's complex socioeconomic, conditions, but it's weird how there aren't complex socioeconomic conditions when it comes to saving other saving other human beings from being killed.
Okay. Let me again, because you don't seem to get my point. Again, I'll rephrase it.
You're
if we're in a world, no. If we're in a world where killing animals is not something that's widely acceptable for some reason, and people haven't been educated enough about it, right? If we live in a vegan world, then what I said applies, right? If you see a human being attacking an animal, you should try to stop that human being and even use force, and if you kill them, that's what it is, right? Obviously, I would not advocate for anybody to do that in the current world, because the problems aren't as overly simplistic as us saying that that person is doing bad because they're in a job that maybe they were put in that position, right? I don't think it's insane to me that you think that it's so overly simplistic that you think these people choose to be like. Have you read any of the stories of these people? Because very few people are actually chose to be in a position to kill animals. None of the like, are you saying that everybody who does a job, are you saying that everybody who does a job does the job that they do because they love their job, because they want to be in that position? No, we are in positions that we are put in because of the fucking complexity of our society. That's what I'm saying, right? Whether that it's moral or not, it's a completely different thing.
So you could say that about serial killers. There are some interviews with serial killers where they'll tell you, I just had this compulsion to do it. What was his name? David Berkowitz. He was a serial killer of several women in New York back, I think, in the 1970s. He was talking about how he got indoctrinated into a satanic cult. And he was like worshiping the devil. He was sacrificing dogs to Satan or some shit. And apparently he had a few other accomplices that were never caught. So, like, oh, well, there are these weird socioeconomic conditions where this guy grew up in a poor neighborhood and he wasn't exactly the brightest dude, and he got sucked into this cult where he got friends and got validation. You could make the sort of like excuse for anybody doing anything. So I don't know.
I would say,
I don't know how you could say, well, it's not okay to like kill people killing animals because, well, there are these socioeconomic conditions that make them victims. But then when it comes to a human being killing another human being, you're like, oh yeah, kill them. When you could make the same argument that there's a set of like different socioeconomic conditions that made them commit like become serial killers. Like again, you're clearly just speciesist. You don't think animals have as much of a right to live as human beings.
I do think that's
No, you
how is it that how first of all, please don't put things like words in my mouth, because you clearly don't understand my position, right? What I'm saying is that in the context of a society that we live in, where it is widely acceptable to kill animals, I don't think it's moral to kill animals. I wouldn't think, right, like you can understand to some degree that the fact that, like, you, for example, let's put it this way, right? Like, why do you accept riding horses, for fuck's sake? Like, why? Why is it that you think it's acceptable to ride horses?
Well, I've explained
Why?
this for the same reason.
Would
I
you
think
be
it's
would you
acceptable
say
to
it's
walk a dog. Like,
would you
and
say
by
it's
the
acceptable to
way,
ride
by
humans?
the way,
It's acceptable to ride
well,
humans?
yeah, if they give consent. And by the way, I should clarify,
Did the
I
horse?
only think it's acceptable to ride horses if you train them to give consent.
What does training a horse to give consent mean? Because if you mean breaking in
You
a
can
horse,
look up
that's not
consent
consent.
training.
Right?
And the whole breaking a horse thing, that's something you do with wild horses. With domestic horses, they can just be trained with positive reinforcement. There's no such thing as like breaking if you're doing positive reinforcement training with a domesticated horse.
Can you do that with a human being? When they're young, you do consent training for them, just
Yeah,
like you would with a
how the
horse.
hell do you force kids to go to school? Like, I mean, we make people do things that they might not otherwise want to do. Like we tell.
So would you say it's ethical if a parent teaches their child that they should be just basically what horses are, that other humans will be riding on their back, and to teach them to be consent to ride on their back? And the reason, by the way, the reason why this is relevant is because I'm trying to explain the fact that there is some complexity to all of it, right? That's what I'm trying to come at towards the end. But it's been 4 hours, and I want to fucking end this discussion because
Yeah, by the
I'm
way,
very tired.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask something about the killing humans thing, because we actually have flagged that for later, because Cyprian asked me, I advocate for killing all other predators. Why wouldn't I advocate for killing humans? I do think there's some symmetry breakers between the two cases. I want to know what Richard thinks about it, Aputa. Yeah, like the reason I wouldn't advocate for killing humans is for pragmatic reasons. I think I see a couple of symmetry breakers between the human and the animal context. Like, one of them is that one, we will be like incarcerated. Like, it is socially accepted to hunt wild animals, not in the human context. Another one is that veganism would be labeled as a terrorist movement, or we're probably gonna fail if we do this.
Well,
and the other, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
so-
other a third symmetry breaker is that like I think carnivore humans are like instrumental for vegan flourishing in the future. Like I think like we need carnivores right now for society to run or whatever. But anyway, I just wanted to think what do you think about those symmetry breakers.
Well, those aren't symmetry breakers. Those are just pragmatic reasons why we shouldn't advocate for killing carnists right now. If we
That's
had
how-
like a death note or something where nobody would ever find out it's vegans doing it, and you could just write somebody's name in a notebook and they just die of a heart attack, I don't see what argument you could make.
Sure. In principle, we agree. I just had those
Yeah.
pragmatic concerns for advocating for the position.
Yeah.
No, okay, we agree on that. You have the same view, Apu, on that?
Yep, I do.
It's okay. Like,
Well,
okay,
if
so
it-
let's just draw a conclusion from this discussion because I'm very tired. I cannot continue anymore. I'm sorry, I just cannot. It's been 4 hours already. You can, you know what, Richard, if you think I'm speciesist, I don't care. I don't care what you think. I know I'm not. I mean, I just think that you really didn't understand my position. I don't really care about that. It's okay. I also think you're speciesist when you ride horses, and I also don't understand your position on that one, but I don't call you a speciesist. So let's just move on with that one, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. You don't understand my position. I don't understand your position. Let's just move on with that one. I'm not trying to pick hairs with this one right here, right? First of all. Second of all, this whole position of my whole problem with the culling argument thing has been from the start the practicability of it, right? Because if you have heard about it, you will have heard that some people go around killing spiders, killing predators because they say, well, it's okay to kill predators because they are actually doing good by doing that, right? So my problem is that it's an oversimplification. While I can agree that there are certain situations where culling predators might be a moral choice, but because I understand the perspective of the killing predators thing, I don't think that should ever be allowed or said for the majority of population who can barely discern what is right and wrong, to allow themselves to make decisions of such a complex nature, right? If you ever want to make decisions of such a complex nature, you would need a whole bunch of team, a whole bunch of studies, a whole bunch of things behind them to do all that, right? That's my whole point and perspective around it. I don't want to debate it anymore. That's just what I'm saying, okay? And by the way, it's pretty speciesist to say let's kill predators and not kill humans, right? Like if you encourage people to kill predators, to kill spiders, you should encourage people to kill also humans. That's just my point. Otherwise, it's speciesist at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So I think I proved that your position is purely ideological, even when we have hypotheticals where we know for a fact wiping out a carnivorous species from an ecosystem would not cause ecosystem collapse, and it would be clearly beneficial for prey species where they could live without getting predated upon, getting ripped to pieces. You still seem to have an issue with it. I think regardless of whether or not we talk about like moral agency, things like that, in a world where there's determinism, in a world where there's moral agency, doesn't really seem to make a difference to me. We want certain outcomes. We want an outcome where the majority of species on the planet that are conscious are living good, long, happy lives. Carnivorous animals, serial killers, murderers, rapists, they're all getting in the way of that. So killing them or imprisoning them or doing something to stop them from committing these horrible acts all seems like a good idea to me. So moving towards a world where we have political motivation to stop, these sort of atrocities from happening, and leveraging technology in order to get to this outcome all seems like a good idea to me.
I agree.
And just the 2 points. I'm fine with killing carnists. I don't openly advocate for it for practical reasons. I think in the long term it will probably prevent more people from going vegan than it will help, the vegan movement. If that weren't the case, though, yeah, absolutely. Like,
wait.
Were the majority, but
how do you think telling people to kill other animals is practical for the vegan movement?
Well, I haven't seen it create practical issues. So like
But it's already
what are you talking
legal.
about?
It's already legal and socially acceptable to kill predators.
So when
while killing
Are you
humans.
guys justifying now the fact
yeah,
that
we can talk about that a little bit. when I've done vegan activism, usually what ends up happening is people will ask me, well, what about lions though? Like lions kill gazelles and shit. Well, I will tell them, well, what lions are doing is wrong too. I don't want lions to kill other animals. And then if the conversation kind of goes a bit deeper and they ask me, well, what would you do about lions? I would say, well, ideally we'd kill them all because they're murderers. When I talk to most carnists about this, when I do vegan outreach, they're actually like, never thought about it that before. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
That's true.
They don't really respond in a way where it's like, oh, you hypocrite vegans, veganism is stupid. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Bye. No one has ever responded to me that way. So I think this concern that the public is going to react in a way where they think veganism is stupid, I just haven't seen it. And on top of that, if you're debating very like smart carnists who are capable of debating, like maybe Destiny, some people who know enough about philosophy, they're going to catch you in a contradiction where if you're okay with animals killing other animals, you're not going to be able to come up with an argument for why it's okay for animals to kill animals, but it's not okay for people to kill animals. So you're putting yourself in a position where you're the one making a double standard. And people are much more likely to not take you seriously if they're smart enough to argue with you and they know enough about philosophy. But to your point about me being speciesist because I'm in favor of riding horses, to be clear, I'm not just in general in favor of people riding horses. I don't think any animal should be bred. I think that's exploitation. So breeding horses, absolutely wrong. I don't think we should be creating more horses to ride them. The only time I recommend riding horses is if you're a vegan, if you're somebody who happens to own a horse, maybe you did horse riding before you were vegan, maybe you adopted a horse because you have your own farm property or something. Horses need vigorous exercise to be healthy. Horses are generally
You don't
lazy.
have to ride them.
Well,
You don't have to ride them.
You really do. Horses are lazy.
No, you can pull them.
Well,
pull
just
them.
so no. The only way for them to get vigorous exercise is if they run fast or if they have weight bearing and they're also running fast. The only way to get a horse to run fast, the only way I've seen for them to actually get vigorous exercise is to ride them. Horses are lazy. They're not going to move unless there's like a predator nearby that they're going to run from. When you're talking about horses in captivity, they're usually in relatively confined spaces. Even if they're in large spaces, the only way to get them to walk is to put food at each end of their like open pen. That's the only motivation they're really going to have to walk around. But walking around isn't vigorous exercise. So the only way to motivate them to actually run around and get enough exercise is to ride them. I haven't seen any other option. I've seen some people recommend putting them through obstacle courses where they're basically walked around on a leash. That's not as vigorous of exercise as, again, riding. And horses also have a propensity to become obese. Depending on the paddock they're on, they might be eating very sugary grass and the type of hay that you might have access to. It might also be very calorically dense, and because they're not really getting much exercise, they're going to have a propensity for obesity, and obesity is actually much more dangerous for a horse than it is for a human. So in cases where you have a horse that requires vigorous exercise, doing positive reinforcement training and consent training so that they can actually consent to be ridden, that's what you should do. Otherwise, I don't think you should ride horses for ethical reasons.
What if they don't consent to being ridden? What if
Then
in
you
the
don't ride
consent
them.
training you realize, okay, I wanted to know about that. Okay, I'm not gonna. I'm very tired right now, and I don't want to go further into that. It is what it is. Okay, I'm not. As I said at the beginning of this discussion, which you weren't part of, and I hope everybody in the chat and everybody else understood. This isn't a "Are you vegan or aren't you not vegan?" discussion. This was a discussion where we would explore values, and I stand by it. We explored values in this discussion, right? As far as I saw, because I was 1 versus 3 people at the end of it, I didn't really get somebody on my side to explain my position better. and I probably
we
was
appreciate-
incapable of explaining my position
We
better than
appreciate
I
you
did.
being a good sport. And yeah, I know it's hard maybe arguing against two people. I think the moderator here did a good job making sure we're not like dogpiling you. So yeah, if
no
you want to
moderator.
come on my channel and just have a one debate again, we can do that.
We can try and have that, but like honestly, I want to. My whole problem with it has been from the start practicability, and I feel like I cannot have this discussion because with you or anybody alone, because as far as I see the practicability aspect of it, where there have been times throughout this discussion also where it has been accepted that it could be unpracticable, or it has been acceptable that it could be unpracticable. The whole idea of calling some predators, not some predators, like I don't think like this whole argument is as thought out or as well thought through as you guys defend it to be. I think there are clearly hypotheticals where it does make sense. I'm not denying it, but I think in a real life scenario, in a real world scenario, it's more likely that it doesn't make sense than that it does. That's just my whole point. And that if you want to debate that, we can debate the practicability of it. But the argument itself, I don't think I want to go down the same. I did it once with Harry. I did it once again with you.
Well,
and I we did it again this time. So
well, I think we got you to agree on the normative side of things, the practicability aspect. I don't know if we're ever going to agree. I just want to point out, like, this same debate was being had over slavery for thousands of years. You can see mentions back when the Romans were practicing slavery, whether or not it would actually be practicable to free all the slaves. Back when Americans were, in the slave trade, a lot of slave owners talked about how it would be impractical to free the slaves. So I don't think this practicability argument really makes any fucking sense. Look, we are going to reach a point where we have the technology and the political will to actually do something that is practical, to interfere with nature, to create an ecosystem that is ethical. That has to happen at some point. We're going to be able to
I don't disagree with that.
Like, if we're going to be able to travel throughout the universe, create wormholes and crap like that, I don't see why at some point we're not going to be able to just stop bears from killing other animals. So
I agree.
So, like,
I agree with that.
So I don't know why you're so opposed to creating some sort of political will to actually interfere with nature at some point when we have the technology. Like, your position your position just seems to be ideological, where we should just never do this.
Okay, then let me
one day we will have the technology, then why aren't you promoting the idea, saying that this is the ethical position, and once we have the technology, we should promote it?
Because of the context that we live in. I don't think in the context that we currently live in, where we as humans are more likely to see animals as objects, where we commodify them, where we kill them, is a helpful thing to, like, if somebody asks me, like you said during outreach, if somebody asks me, like I have had people ask me during outreach, and I have said the same thing, if I could stop them, I would try to stop them. It's exactly like you said. If they ask me for a solution, I'll just say I don't have a good enough solution, because I don't have a good enough solution with how it is right now. But maybe in the future, why would the solution be calling predators? Maybe the solution would be, as we said, feeding them lab-grown meat or whatever the shit other solution there is, right? My only point is that as it is right now, as we stand right now in our current world, in our current context, trying to tell people that it's okay to call, like to kill predators, to kill other animals, is basically just doing a detriment to veganism, if you ask me. That's my point about it. Like, I understand the argument in the context where in the future we'll have technology, but then shouldn't we kind of work towards a technology where we don't kill the animals? If we're anyway working towards a technology, shouldn't we work towards a technology where we don't kill these animals, but rather make it so that all animals live without being killed?
Yeah, so you could argue that, and maybe we will have some sort of gene editing technology where we can make bears herbivorous. But again,
that would be awesome.
You could argue that, okay, well, if all of these animals are herbivorous, then they're all going to be competing for the same food source. So
that could happen, yeah.
So either way, I see it being more practical to probably eliminate some species, but in either case, I think when it comes to vegan outreach, you are going to have a ethically consistent position, and the ethically consistent position seems to be in favor of culling carnivorous animals, if that's, the only option.
Yeah, I have the same experience as Richard with that when I've debated carnies, and most of them seem to respect that we have a logically consistent position when it comes to predation. Like most of them are telling me, "Oh, you sound like the only reasonable I ever talked to, only reasonable vegan I ever talked to."
Fair enough. I appreciate the feedback. Okay, I understand what you mean, right? The reality is that if I don't go into debates, so I don't debate people. I just go and do street outreach, and when I do street outreach, people are not gonna try to debate me on something along those lines. But if I do, as I said yes, I would think that it's wrong for wild animals to die as food, also to be killed for food, also. But I don't think I have a solutions for that to happen. I hope that in the future, maybe lab grown meat, maybe a combination of I don't know, something could be the solution, but you can also understand how a less intellectual person could understand when I say that, well, a solution could be that we kill wild animals, could instantly say, well, how is that different from us killing domestic animals, right? Like, why is that different? After all, they bring up the, well, lions kill gazelles argument all the time, right? How would it be like for me to say, well, when they bring up lions eat gazelles, to say, you're right, we should kill lions?
Again, if you're going to be in favor of giving the same rights to human beings as to animals, where animals have the right to not be killed, you're going to have to protect those animals from not only humans but other animals. So that would be a contradiction if you say that it's okay for animals to kill other animals.
I agree with you. I agree with you that at some point in time we will have to do that. But you can also agree with me that the biggest issue and the reason the veganism is mostly, it's not necessarily, veganism isn't, as far as my definition of veganism isn't as stopping suffering or necessarily giving rights to animals, but rather to not exploit animals. That's the whole thing about veganism, is that we stop that we abstain from exploiting animals, right? How would we abstain from exploiting animals when we go in there and intervene because we apply our own ethical values to a system where we
not exploitation.
It's not, but it's still, it's not exploitation. That's true. I'm not saying that that the whole point isn't vegan. You're right. It's not exploitation, but you can clearly understand that some people might see it as a negative connotation or us doing this when we explain veganism as a.
I just haven't seen that with any of my outreach.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. I don't know. Like I'll take your feedback into consideration. That's why I wanted to have this discussion, by the way, to learn more about it. It ended up being a debate where my values were in question rather than me trying to learn more about the whole argument, which I think, by the way, is kind of wrong. If you want this argument for people to understand it, then perhaps don't try and find errors in the person's argument. What you guys have done tonight hasn't been outreaching me into agreeing to this argument
of trying to promote your own ethical position than by pointing out contradictions in somebody else's.
Or redactios.
I don't think that's how you. Honestly, I don't. Even when I do activism, I don't try to find contradictions in the people's thing. I try to get them to understand the position, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how you're going to convince somebody to go vegan when you don't show them that their own ethical values contradict what they're doing.
Well, how about, like, if you ask me how to promote this, how about that you mention what your position is and let others question your values on that position rather than you questioning that person's position for their values, right? Because what you're doing is exactly the opposite of somebody who would be willing to understand that position.
Well, look, the idea with vegan outreach is to convince people that, killing animals is wrong and that animals should have the same.
Well, to get them to understand.
So, well, they'll understand by being challenged with their own ethical values. Their ethical value is that it's okay to kill and eat animals. And when you point out that based on their own fundamental values, that leads them to the position that killing animals is wrong. Like I don't see any other better way to convince somebody to go vegan than to point out that they're contradicting their own values.
So look, this one, exactly what Leanne is saying. The best way for me to promote my ideas is not to create a strong argument, but attack the other position. That's what I felt you guys did to me tonight, okay? That's what I'm saying. You didn't promote your argument, you attacked my position. And you try to find holes in my position. And whereas you may find out that as one way of doing it, right? Like, I am not convinced by this argument. I still believe it's unpractical. I still ended up with the same thing. All that happened is that we tested my values, and I got kind of annoyed to some extent. I'm pretty tired, and at the end of the day, I got called a speciesist and whatnot, right? I don't agree. I don't mind, because I guess for some people it was nice to watch. I don't even know that, but what I'm saying is that if you guys want to promote this argument, for God's sake, please try to explain the argument, not attack the other people's position on it.
We explain the argument, and then we attack your position based on some of the arguments that you make against it. Like that's how a discussion works. Like this is how everything in academia works. Like how do you think scientists debate ideas? Like one way to debate ideas is by falsifying somebody else's idea. That's just how these sorts of discussions work.
That's one way of doing it. Sure, that's one way of doing it.
That's just how you do it. If you can't falsify somebody else's position, how are you going to convince them of your position? You have to falsify, some other their contrarian view.
I didn't become vegan because somebody falsified my position. I became vegan because somebody, I watched the Joey Carbstrong video that explained the position, and I instead falsified my own position and understood the position. Okay? If you try to falsify my position...
So rather than somebody arguing with you, you just argued with yourself, but you just proved your point. You have to have somebody arguing against your position.
Okay, I have to have even this right now. I proved your point. Okay, I proved your point. My point wasn't that at the end of the day there is some values that would have to be contradicted, or that there is some contradiction in my thinking that would have to happen. That wasn't my point. My point was that if you want to convince somebody about something, you don't need to point out and prove their values, their contradictions, or anything, right? You don't have to do that, but rather you have to listen to what their position is and explain your position so that you can try to find similarities or try to make them understand it better.
Yeah,
whereas
I don't really care. Like, if you're butthurt that people are arguing with you, that's your fucking problem. So we like arguing. If you don't like arguing, then maybe you shouldn't be in these discussions.
I don't like arguing. I'll be honest. I don't think these discussions are productive, because at the end of the day, I think nobody in this chat changed their opinion.
Well,
I didn't.
We were just exploring your values here. We were just asking questions to explore your values and see what extends logically from them, and the audience can determine what position sounds the most logically consistent, reasonable.
Fair enough. People can decide that. I'm just saying,
I don't get the point, because we've seen vegan gains, like Richard being in a discussion with Avi about this. I've watched that discussion. I've been in discussions myself where people pointed out how not being how not being pro predator killing is not in line with my values. So that's how it happened for the rest of us.
That's okay if that works for you. That's fine.
So I'm not sure what the point is with you talking about this.
My whole point was we could have done it differently and probably would have reached, I don't know if the same thing, because I don't have a magical mirror to know what would have happened if we did it differently. My whole point is that when you try to debate, I don't know if I did outreach courses on people talking about veganism, and if you're going to debate people, what will happen is that people will debate you. That means they will try to hold their position, right? And at the end of the day, nobody wants to win or lose. Nobody wants to, believe it or not. That's the whole idea of debating, right? So there's a winner, there's a loser. But when you outreach someone,
when your position is either wrong, falsified, if you've contradicted yourself, and you'll change your position based on new evidence. So yeah, like people don't like losing a debate, but again, I'm more concerned with the truth and getting closer to the truth and having a like logically consistent position than losing a debate. Like I've lost debates with Avi. He convinced me on calling carnivorous animals. I didn't hold that position before. He made me change my views on abortion. I've changed my position on that. Like even though I prefer to have won, like really I would have preferred to have lost because like now I know more than I did before.
I agree, but you understand that what because no, never mind. I'm not trying to do a retrospective right now. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to go into it. I'm too tired to go into a retrospective to prove my point. What I was saying just now. Okay, I'm too
And
tired.
Sip, I don't know. I don't know what your goal is in debates, but my goal is just to get closer to the truth. I genuinely wanted to
Same.
understand your position and see what extends logically from your position.
Same,
That's
but
I think we obtained the information we wanted to obtain.
well, it didn't feel that way, right? Because you drew out a conclusion that I'm a speciesist. That's why you drew out a conclusion. And I know for a fact that I'm not a speciesist because I understand my positions. Maybe there's edge cases when I don't really understand my positions. And then in that position, in those edge cases, you could argue that, am I a speciesist? Or maybe I just default to what I've been taught ever since at the beginning. But anyway, again, I don't want to go into a retrospect of the discussions. We had a 4-hour discussions, 4 hours and a half. I'm very tired and hungry because it's been 4 hours and I haven't eaten. I don't know how you guys eat, but I eat a lot.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, so let's just finish here. I appreciate all the conversations. Richard, I appreciate you coming here. I hope the chat, because the whole reason why I wanted to have this conversation was to get people to understand more about this argument, because to be honest, I understand some perspective of it. There's, again, some practical issues that I have with it. So I hope that people got something out of it. And if not, it's sad that nobody got anything out of it. It is what it is. So it was at least the conversations that you listen to. Yeah, I don't have a conclusion to draw from all of this. We all want to stop. Like, my conclusion is we're all vegan. We all want to stop animal exploitation. So let's all agree that that is bad. Let's all agree that we all want that to happen, to stop. Let's just end at least on a positive note that we all.
And I think all of us here agree that predation is bad, and we should abolish predation if we had a way to do it. I think we all agree with that as well.
If we had a way to do it without killing sentient individuals, yes, I think the method of killing sentient individuals, this particular method is where we disagree on, right? Is the fundamental difference, and trying to explore and show me that. No. Okay, that's the difference, and that's the conclusion. So thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you for having this conversation with me. And I saw another donation. I just want to say thank you for that. Oluwale, thank you for the membership. And Nick, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate it. I would do a guitar thing, but not the time. Yeah, and I don't know, vegan gains. I'll learn more about my position, and I'll contact you again to learn more about it. But I really want to learn more about this argument. I really want to learn more about what my position is about this whole thing, and make a definitive statement. As it stands now for me, I still think there's only certain edge cases where this argument makes sense. That's all. That's where as it stands out for me.
All right, man. Take care. I'm gonna go back to my stream.
Thank you for having me. B, thanks for popping by.
Thank you, Sky.
All right. Oh, I didn't have that up. All right, let's get to the Streamlabs donos. Thanks.